He said, Damon Joseph West, you are hereby sentenced to 65 years. 65 is life. I grew up under the lights of Texas, and I was good.
Damon West is the starting quarterback. Cromers is running.
I was good enough to get a Division I college scholarship to play football at University of North Texas, and by the time I'm 20, I'm the starting quarterback on a Division I team until a fateful day in 1996 against Texas A&M.
West throws to Colvin, caught it behind the line at about the 38, and that will be it.
That's the last play I ever played in college, y'all. My shoulder had a third-degree separation.
So I'm 20 years old. I'm at the crossroad of life, a fork in the road in life. Football is gone. My identity's gone. And that's when I turned to drugs. Cocaine, ecstasy, pain pills, functional addict, graduate college. And in 2004, I'm back in Dallas as a stockbroker for UBS, one of the biggest banks in the world. But it was at that job as a broker in 2004 that my life and the lives of a lot of other innocent people are forever changed. He said, Damon, just relax. It's crystal meth, and you're gonna love this stuff. Truer words have never been spoken, brother. I gave up my job, my home, my car, my savings account, my family. I tethered them to God. 18 months is all it took for me to go from working on Wall Street to living on the streets. Theft and meth go together like rats and trash.
To support his habit, Damon and his addict buddies started breaking into so many homes, police dubbed them the Uptown Burglar.
Hey guys, welcome back to The Resilient Show. I am here today in studio with Damon West. Damon West is an amazing story. I was speaking at Ocala Leadership Conference in Ocala, Florida. We had John Maxwell, John Gordon was there, myself, you. There's a lot of great speakers there. A pastor friend of mine, Mark Cummins, put it on, and we got to sit next to each other, and I got to meet you and hear your story, the story of the coffee bean. And man, it's an incredible story. And when I met you, I thought the audience has to hear your journey. It's not your typical story that we have on here, first of all. But even as we sit here right now, you are still currently on parole till 2073.
Yeah, I got a little more time on parole.
Yeah, but in the midst of that, people can be sitting back in their house with you're out here just, man, you're changing the world. You're crushing it, and it's just such a beautiful story of someone that was set up to be successful in life because of being a D1 athlete. Working for the United Bank of Switzerland. You had everything set up for you, but one mistake led you down a dark path. You hit rock bottom, but you rebounded. I had a great friend that said one time, it turns out rock bottom's pretty good foundation to rebuild on.
It is a great foundation. First of all, Chet, thank you for letting me come here today, man. When we talked that day about doing this podcast, I was super excited about it because I love your stuff. We were talking about one of the guests you had on that I really like, Clint.
Yeah, Clint Emerson.
Oh man, well, and you'll see in this story where there's some stuff that he talked about with, because he was in the clandestine trying to break into things too, and then there's that element in this story that we can't escape because we got to tell the bad stuff to get to the good stuff, right?
Right.
But in my former life, I made a lot of poor choices in life. We'll talk about that. And I got sentenced to 65 years, which is essentially a life sentence in prison in Texas. And in the state of Texas, they stopped calculating time on a timesheet at 60. So anything above 60 is just life. They don't tell juries this because juries would try to do the math when they sentence somebody.
Yeah.
So the jury gave me 65 years in prison. But Chad, it's the resilient mindset. Every day that I wake up and my feet don't hit the cold concrete floor of a prison cell is a day I'm winning, brother.
Yeah.
And I think it's important in life for people to define what a bad day looks like. And that's what we have to do. Like, we have to define what a bad day looks like. My friend John Gordon has this little phrase that he talks about. He says, sometimes you sit in traffic and the traffic doesn't bother you, but other times you sit in traffic and it bothers you a lot. Is it the traffic or is it you? And it's always you. It's always the way your mindset is. And I believe if we define what bad days look like, then we can compare our other days that we think are bad days to those. And we find out most of our days aren't really bad days. They're just not so good days. And if it's not so good day, we can bounce back from that pretty quickly. But, life-altering events, marriage fails, job is over, career is gone, something happens to one of your children, a pet. These are life-altering days, and you're allowed to have some bad days in life. But most of your bad days aren't bad days, Chad.
Yeah. I was traveling to a speaking event with my friend Aziz, and we're sitting here next to my book, Saving Aziz. And Aziz had just got back from the Afghanistan withdrawal, and we were able to get him and his wife and 6 kids out of Afghanistan. But his extended family was all there. He lost everything.
Oh, wow.
Lost everything, right? He's sitting there brand new in America, and going out on the road like you to speak and share his story. And we're getting a coffee. And while we're getting the coffee, the lady had got her order wrong, and she ripped into the barista, and she's chewing him out. And Aziz was like, I seen him listening, and he's like, man, this lady's so upset. And we get to the speaking event, he's like, as I've been in America, I look around and see a lot of you people think you're having a bad day because you got your coffee wrong.
Yeah.
He's like, let me tell you about a bad day. And he starts sharing a story about his life in Afghanistan, little kids blowing up, landmines around him, and the time he and I spent, in Afghanistan, the war in Afghanistan together, and then coming and losing everything to come here. And I think as beautiful as this country is and as proud of it I am to be an American, there's a cost to that too, is that we're not exposed to this. We have what we say sometimes first world problems.
Yes. No, this is very true.
Some of our bad days aren't, like you said, aren't really bad days.
And I go around speaking about that a lot. I mean, that's really the premise of the platform that I've been given in life. I think God gave me this platform to go out and do the most good I can with it. But my job is to go out and show people that no matter what the situation there is, no matter what the adversity is, there's always an opportunity in adversity. And I believe that. I really believe that seriously. Inside of every adverse, difficult situation, there's an opportunity in there for you to grow. And when you overcome these challenges in life, when you can find the opportunity in adversity, you need to go out and share that with other people. Because like my friend Ed Milet says, you're most qualified to help the person that you once were. And so it's kind of my job in life to find the person that, was going through something and share with them this story about how I overcame some adversity. His adversity, Aziz's adversity, is a little different than mine because I caused my adversity. This was from choices I made in life. Yeah. He was born into his adversity. But I caused all this, Chad. I did everything they said.
Well, yeah, because as you talk about going back and speaking to the person you once were, your background isn't a stereotypical path to a life of crime.
No, I grew up in a little southeast Texas town called Port Arthur. And Port Arthur is down where Louisiana and Texas touch on the Gulf Coast. A little blue-collar town, a little refinery town. Came from a great two-parent home. Mom and dad were married for 55 years till my dad passed away a couple years ago. Mom was a school teacher and a nurse. My dad was a sports writer. I was a good student, great athlete. God blessed me with a cannon for a right arm. And, Texas, we love high school football. Friday Night Lights. I grew up under the lights of Texas, and I was good, Chad. I was good enough to get a Division I college scholarship to play football at the University.
Texas?
Yeah, University of North Texas. And by the time I'm 20, I'm the starting quarterback on a Division I team. Until a fateful day in 1996 against Texas A&M, when I suffered a career-ending injury on the third play of a game. So I'm 20 years old. I'm at the crossroad of life, a fork in the road in life, and football is gone. My identity's gone. And that's when I turned to drugs. I couldn't live life on life's terms. Cocaine, ecstasy, pain pills, but functional addict, graduate college, have some of the best jobs, Chad. I worked in the United States Congress. I worked for a guy running for president of the United States. And in 2004, I'm back in Dallas as a stockbroker for UBS, one of the biggest banks in the world. But it was at that job as a broker in 2004 that my life and the lives of a lot of other innocent people are forever changed. And that day in 2004, I was passed out of sleep at work. This other stockbroker comes in. He sees me sleeping, wakes me up. He's visibly shaking. Damon, wake up, man. You can't sleep on this job. The markets are open. You're messing with people's money. They'll fire you if they catch you sleeping here. He said, come on down to the parking garage. I've got something that can pick you up. And at that point in my life, Chad, I was into cocaine. And I thought that's what we were going to do that day in his car. But when we got into his car, he handed me a glass pipe with crystal rocks in it. I'd never seen a glass pipe before. It was new to me. I was like, man, what is that? He said, Damon, just relax. It's crystal meth, and you're going to love this stuff. Truer words have never been spoken, brother. It was the most evil, most destructive, most addictive drug. I smoked it one time, instantly hooked like that.
I've talked to a lot of people. Brad Herron's a friend of mine. He's severely burned from a meth fire, and he grew up as a pastor's kid, and he talks a lot about the statistics of one use of meth and the inability to ever get off the rest of your life.
It's interesting you say that. The director of the Federal Bureau of Prisons, a guy named William Marshall III, who has now become a really good friend of mine because he's gotten me into all the federal prisons to let me voluntarily go in there and speak to the staff. He was a career cop, West Virginia State Trooper for 25 years. He said, you are the only one I've ever seen that came out of the meth thing, recovered, and became a better man.
Yeah, it's like a 90, I don't know the stats, but like 99.9% chance you will never break that habit.
Well, and you're going to hear my story that prison ended up saving my life and finding a program recovery in prison. But there were a lot of messengers along the way. And that's one of the keys to this story that we're going to hear is that the messengers in life can come to you from anywhere in life. And messengers won't always look like you or come from the same background as you. But the trick that I found in life, Chad, is we have to be receptive to all the messengers to get all the messages. Yeah. And so you'll hear this story of these messengers that I've met along the way. John Gordon will be one of them.
Yeah. I want to ask you, though, because I think because you share the story a lot and when you I speak a lot too. It's tough when you speak, man. It's like you kind of want to say your things and we always get to dig in because you're on a platform. You get 48 minutes, right?
Yeah.
I want to take the time to dig in because I want to know. I want people listening to know. When you said how the no truer words of this, that you're gonna love this. What happened in your body when you took that first hit of crystal meth? What'd you feel?
All the hair on my body stood up. Arms, back, neck, head, your neck, everything. Like it was like touching a light socket on the inside. You get a little electric jolt. That's the jolt that I felt. And here's what happened next. I thought meth at first was this wonder drug because now I could stay up. And I was cramming for the Series 7 exam as a broker, so I was up studying. It was incredible. I could be up for 2 days on this drug, and I'm alert.
It's like Adderall.
It's like Adderall, and I'm ADHD. So it was like self-medicating almost, and I was getting so much done. But Chad, what goes up must come down. And I didn't understand this. Like I got so caught up in this drug so immediately that I became instantly hooked. And when I would come down, I wanted to get back up.
That's what I say when we talk about the addiction, right? And you say, I'm immediately addicted. So what's that feel like when you say immediately addicted means you have to have the next one? What's the craving?
So the craving is, I think the definition of an addict, and this is a great question because I'm in recovery. I work a 12-step program recovery today. I got into 12 steps in prison. Chad, I still go to 2 or 3 meetings every week in the free world. I've been out for 11 years. I'll never stop going to my 12-step meetings because I know that it works for me. That's what works for me. So I'm not telling anybody this is what they have to do. It's what I did. But in the 12 steps, and this really gave me the answers to addiction. I didn't get the answers till I was in prison to understand the mind of an addict. Addicts think about using. We obsess about the idea of you. And that's what I would say. If you're someone out there that you think about, let's just say drinking, because that's what in our minds in America, when we think about an addict, we think about drugs or alcohol. Mm-hmm. But the truth is you can be addicted to just about anything: food, money, clothing, shopping, sex, pornography, the internet, social media, like the list goes on ad nauseum. Addicts think about using. And if you're sitting there, if you're someone that thinks about using, whether it's drugs or alcohol or one of these other things I just mentioned, you may be an addict. Here's what I know about addicts for sure. An addict gives up their goals to meet their behavior. The definition of addiction, Chad. If you give up goals to meet a behavior, that's an addict. And it doesn't matter what it is that you're addicted to. Like if you're giving up a goal for something else in life that you're feeding yourself, that's addictive behavior. And that's where I was in life. I didn't understand all that till I got to prison. I got into recovery, but that was me. I gave up my job, my home, my car, my savings account, my family, my tethering to God. 18 months is all it took for me to go from working on Wall Street to living on the streets. And now I'm homeless at this point, Chad. I'm living on the streets. I'm living in dope houses. I become a criminal.
Did you get fired or did you quit your job?
Oh, I got fired. I got fired from UBS. I'll tell you, the day I got fired, Charlie Eldemeyer, the guy that brought me into UBS, had to be the one to fire me too. It was one of my dad's friends. And the reason why I got this job at UBS is because I left a job in political fundraising. I had a book of business of millionaires and billionaires from political fundraising, right? So UBS is like, Charlie was like, hey man, come over here. You'll be a broker. You'll make a killing. And the future was set for me, man. But Charlie brings me in the office one day. He said, hey, man, you okay? Everything okay with you? I was like, oh, man, I'm great. And I'm wired when he's talking to me. I'm high as a kite at work. He said, you failed your Series 7 exam. I said, oh, man, that's all right. Well, I'll take it again. He goes, nah. He said, Damon, I got to let you go today. You're fired. I was all right. Cool. So I leave the office and they bring me my stuff because I can't go back to my desk. They bring me all my stuff boxed up. I get in my car. I pick up my phone and I call my dope dealer. And I said, hey, man, I just got off of work early today. You think I can come by and get a fix? I just got off of work early, Chad. Like I got fired. My job is gone. That was the last job I ever had until I got out of prison one day later in 2015. This is in 2004. So it was the last job I ever had. But when he fired me that day, all I saw was the opportunity to call my dealer and get some more dope. That's what the drug does to you.
And so from there, obviously you have no more income, so your resources dwindle. It leads you to the street.
Turn into a life of crime. And that's what, theft and meth go together like rats and trash. You were a detective once. You were a cop. You understand what drugs do to people. So I became a small-time criminal, and it was petty crimes, shoplifting, breaking into cars, breaking into storage units. Then it escalates to a very serious crime called home burglary. Chad, this is a serious topic because my victims that I created out there, and I created a lot of victims. When I broke into my victims' homes, I didn't just steal property from my victims. Because when I broke into my victims' homes, I stole something way more valuable from them. I stole their sense of security. And they can't get that back. I don't know if they get that. I don't think they do, Chad. And my victims have to live with that for the rest of their lives. In Texas, they have a law that says if you have a felony and you have a victim of a felony, you can't apologize to the victims of your crimes. You're forbidden from making apologies to your victims. So I'll never apologize to my victims because that would send me back to prison to do so. And so my victims have to live with that for the rest of their lives. And these burglaries go on for about 3 years. They called the burglaries the Uptown Burglaries for the Uptown neighborhood of Dallas where it all started. Mm-hmm. They called me the Uptown Burglar. This is before they knew who I was. I put together a burglary crew though, Chad. And this is the thing. Like, I was always a leader in life. I've always been a leader. My fifth grade teacher, Miss Greenberg, told me, you're a natural born leader, Damon, and you're going to either lead people the right way or the wrong way, but you're going to lead people one day. And this is evidenced by the fact that I was a Division I starting quarterback at 20 years old. I was a leader. But now that I'm on this meth game and I'm out there breaking into people's houses, I put together a crew, and now I'm leading this crew of other meth addicts, and we're breaking into houses all over Dallas. And no one was ever home, thankfully. And I went through great measures to make sure no one was home, Chad. Like, one of the first burglaries I ever did, I broke into a U.S. post office and I stole a mailman uniform. Now I've got some residential camouflage because not everybody knows what their mailman looks like. And mailman can change, right? So I've got a mailman uniform, a bag, a hat, everything. And now I've got access to these condo buildings and the mail rooms. And in the mail rooms of some of these condo buildings, you would have boxes of mail that say, out of town from this date to this date, hold our mail. Or, you'd have mail stacked up in some of these boxes, that no one's home. And once I could gain access to these condo buildings in Uptown, I could find people that were not home. And that's the ones that we hit. And we had a crew of people, and, we had a box truck, looked like a moving truck, and you had dope fiends dressed in Dickie overalls. I mean, it looked like a very organized crew. And I would take evidence from these burglaries. This just shows you the preservation of life instinct that a person has. Like, I would take evidence from some of these burglaries and I would drop it off in neighborhoods around Dallas where I'd rather the police be looking. South Dallas, East Dallas, places that don't have a lot of people that look like me. Might be the kind of suspects that they would normally think would do these crimes.
Just throw them off.
Stolen vehicles. Like, when people are out of town, they don't always take their vehicle with them, and if you find the key fob in the house of the vehicle that's in the parking garage, well, now you've got a Land Rover, a Mercedes, or a BMW that you can drop off in a neighborhood with the key in it and the music going and the car running at a car wash. I don't know how long those vehicles stayed there, but they got picked up by somebody else and somebody drove them around and got caught in a stolen vehicle, and there's the trail. These burglaries go on for about 3 years. And in July 30th, 2008 was a pivotal day, and I knew the heat was coming down on me. My partner in crime, Dustin, had been picked up about 10 days before. They got him, and it was all over the news. They got one of the Uptown burglars. They're looking for the other one. And I mean, like, look, you worked as a cop. Everybody talks, right? I mean, so it's like, I know my days are numbered. I just don't know when they're going to get me. And my dope dealer, Tex, came over that day on July 30th, 2008. And I was telling Tex, man, look, drop off the dope, get out of here. The cops are closing in. The end is near. And just about that time, the flashbang grenade comes through the window. Boom. SWAT team rushes in. Dallas SWAT's in one of the SWAT, they've got their boot on my chest, a gun in my face, and don't move, don't move. And one of them screams out, we got him. We got the Uptown burglar. And it was like big event for them. They got the guy that had been doing all these crimes for 3 years. And that was the day the Uptown Burglaries ended, because they did. They had the right man. I was guilty of everything, Chad. They got me.
Well, because you were not just burglaring, you were organizing this racketeering case too, right?
Yeah, and they called it organized crime.
Like a RICO case?
Yeah, it's a RICO case. Yeah, it's definitely a RICO case. I mean, and I look back on it like how disorganized it really was.
Right.
Just a bunch of dope fiends stealing for dope. We didn't have anything to show for anything we did. We traded it to the dope dealers, everything we took, but it was organized crime by the statute, the criminal code statute in Texas for organized crime. This is organized crime.
Yeah, anytime you're soliciting others to do crime for you on your behalf,
you got the law parties, you've got co-conspirators.
You don't have to be good at it, but if you're doing that,
no, it's definitely organized crime, and they had the right man, and that's a big statute they put on. In Texas, you understand the law, so in Texas, if you slap organized crime onto a regular crime like burglary is a second-degree felony that carries a maximum of 20 years. Which is what I was committed to, a bunch of burglaries. But if you slap organized crime on it, it is an enhancer statute. Now it takes your crime to a first-degree felony. So now the punishment range is life, up to life in prison, 5 to 99. So my bond is set at about $1.4 million. So that's a no bond. I can't get out of jail, and criminals are stupid. We are so stupid as criminals. So I'm in Dallas County Jail. I'm scared. I want to get out. I want to get high again. The meth is talking to me, man. You got to get out of this place. So I'm on those jailhouse phones. That's how stupid criminals are. The smart guy that was throwing the cops off for 3 years, now you put a little pressure on him. Now I'm on the phone calling people from the dope world that owe me money, man. Hey, my bond is $250,000. You owe me $10,000 from this one job. Bring it over here to the jail right now and get me out. And I sound like the mob boss they're accusing me of being, right?
Yeah.
And every time I'm calling one of these people, the Dallas police are going to pick these people up because now I just implicated someone else in my organized crime ring. So these tapes are going to be played at my trial. I knew they were listening, but I was scared. I made some big mistakes and got on the phone and started committing more crimes. So now when I go to trial, the trial is a 6-day trial. It happens in May of 2009. May 18th, 2009 was the final day of trial. And the jury, man, I can feel it oozing out of their pores, man. They're like, man, this unrepentant POS over there sitting across from us. And when the trial was over, the jury got the case. The jury deliberated for 10 minutes. Fast verdict, Chad. I knew I was in trouble, and I didn't know how bad. But when the judge told me to stand and receive my sentence, he said, Damon Joseph West, you are hereby sentenced to 65 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. 65 is life. So the first felony I ever got in Texas was a 65-year life sentence for engaging in organized crime. And
did you even process that when you heard those words? Like the reality of it, like when you hear something,
my life was over. Yeah, because I mean that's the end of life. I mean, they can keep you for 65. Doesn't mean you're going to go away for 65 years. Because in Texas, there's two different kinds of crimes in Texas. There's an aggravated crime where you have a physical victim, where you've a violent offender, and there are non-aggravated crimes where you don't have a physical victim. And I know that my crime is under the classification of non-aggravated, and non-aggravated people, according to everybody that's in the jail with me, you got a lot of jailhouse lawyers in there, a lot of experts in the law, right? But I understand that non-aggravated crimes, you're eligible for parole a lot faster than someone that has an aggravated crime. So I know the potential is there for me to get out before 65 years. I think at that point that I'll probably have to do about 15 years of that 65-year sentence inside of a prison. And I mean, 15 years.
You do the math in your head.
I was 33 at the time I got sentenced. I mean, be almost 50 years old when I got out, my parents will be dead. A lot of scary things go through your head when something like that happens, but there wasn't a lot of time to process it, Chad, because I mean, like, you get a sentence like that, the sheriff is on you, the bailiff is on you, they're handcuffing you. I mean, they don't know how you're going to react. And I mean, I wasn't going to react violently. I wasn't a violent guy. And looking back on it now through the lens of life, because, I went back after I got out of prison, I went back and got a master's in criminal justice and became a professor at the University of Houston downtown. And I was teaching a class called Prisons in America. But that education, the formal side of it, when I was getting my master's, I learned more about juries and sentencing that juries do. When juries sentence people to a lot of time like that, there's one or two reasons or both. Either they're very afraid of the person that's in that courtroom, or they're very mad at the person that's in that courtroom. And the jury was mad at me. They weren't afraid of me. I didn't hurt anybody physically. I never showed any propensity towards violence, but they were very mad at me. And juries can be emotional because you're still talking to 12 human beings to make a decision.
Right.
And they were mad at me. And they gave me 65 years, which I've earned. That's my sentence. And you did the crime, got to do the time. So the trial is over. They take me out of there. My mom and my dad are giving a visit with me before I leave and before I go to prison. And my mom makes me promise two things. Promise you won't get into one of these Aryan Brotherhood gangs while you're in there. You weren't raised to be a racist. You're not starting that now. Promise you won't get any tattoos while you're in there. She said, don't come back looking like prison. So she said, no gangs, no tattoos. Come back as the man we raised, or don't come back to us at all. And I don't know how I'm going to do this, Chad. I have no clue, because everybody in Dallas County Jail, as I'm waiting for that prison bus to give me in the summer of 2009, everybody that's been to prison before is telling me, you have to get into a gang. You're going to the worst part of prison there is. In Texas, they have a custody level law. If you have a life sentence in Texas, you have to live with lifers only. You don't get to live in a general population area. So the life sentence building has only lifers. And these lifers, you don't have access to jobs and school and programming, because all they want you to do as a lifer is get escaping off your mind. So for 5 years, you sit on a building with other people serving their life sentences, and you can't leave the building. And they're telling me this. They're like, listen, man, you're about to go in one of the most inhospitable environments on earth. Get into a gang. The gang will protect you. The gang will be your family. But there was this one guy that was different. This older black man named Muhammad. Muhammad's different than me in a lot of ways, Chad. He's a career criminal. I'm a first-time offender. He's black. I'm white. He's Muslim. I'm Christian. He's older. I'm younger. There's a lot of rules in prison that tell us we don't belong in the same conversations with each other. In fact, he'd be the one to tell me that race runs everything in that environment. Everything is divided by race. Everybody wants to break off in their own racial group in that environment. But Muhammad seeks me out. And every day he comes up and he checks on me, man. He's like, how you doing? You doing okay? So this one morning he comes up, and I know I'm short on time. I know the bus is about to come get me. And he's like, hey, man, listen, I've been watching how you're doing with these knuckleheads and these dummies. Talk about you got to get into a gang. He said, don't listen to these fools. He said, do you want to keep the promise you made to your mom and your dad? I was like, yeah, I do, Muhammad, but I don't know how. He said, let me tell you what it's really going to be like in there. And that's when he told me about the race thing. He said, you're going to fight the white gangs first when you get there, because you're white. If you survive the white gangs, you'll fight the black gangs. And the white gangs will send the black gangs after you. And the black gangs will work in concert with the white gangs to get you with your own race where you belong, because that's how they keep the peace in a prison. Everybody's broken off by their own race. He said, but you can earn the right to walk alone. You can earn the right to be an independent, but you have to fight for that. But he told me the truth about fighting. And speaking of resilient mindset, he said, you don't have to win all your fights, but you do have to fight all your fights. Some days you win, some days you lose. Do not worry about losses in there. Get up and keep fighting. And then he shares with me this life-changing message. He said, I want you to imagine prison as a pot of boiling water. Anything we put into a pot of boiling water will be changed by the heat and the pressure in the pot. Let's put 3 things in this pot of boiling water and watch how they change. A carrot, an egg, and a coffee bean. So here's where I first heard the story of the coffee bean. It's the summer of 2009 in a jail cell in Dallas County Jail, 10 years before John Gordon and I write that best-selling book called The Coffee Bean in 2019.
Yeah.
So he walks me through it. If I put a carrot in a pot of boiling water, the carrot goes in hard, but becomes softened by the water. He said, you don't want to be a carrot in this environment. You don't want to be soft. He said the egg in the same pot of boiling water, it goes in with the shell that protects it on the outside, but inside the shell, the soft liquid core, the yolk, the heart becomes hardened. He said, if your heart becomes hardened, you're incapable of giving or receiving love. And he said, if you're incapable of giving or receiving love in this environment, you won't come back, as some of your parents recognize. And then he told me, the coffee bean, the smallest of the 3 things, small like you, has the power to change the entire atmosphere inside that pot, because the coffee bean in the same pot of boiling water will change the water to coffee. It's the change agent. It's the only thing that will change the water. Everything else is changed by the water. If you want to come back, as some of your parents recognize, you have to be like a coffee bean. And the last words he said to me, Chad, before the prison bus came to get me in 2009, he said, be a coffee bean. And that was the message I took with me into one of the most harshest environments on earth.
You ever see him again, Muhammad?
Man, that's a good question. So the world wants to know this question. Every time I go speak at an event, I always say,
I mean, people that have that kind of impact in your life, I always wonder where they end up.
yeah. So, and it's a good question. It's a great place for the audience to hear. Like, I believe going to prison, what society wants us ex-cons, and I use the term ex-con to describe me. I'm an ex-con. They have all these PC terms out there. There's justice impacted. There's all kinds of different things. But look, man, I'm an ex-con. So I believe what society wants to see from ex-cons is that we learn this one thing while we're in prison called integrity. Because integrity is who you are when no one's watching you. And let's face it, most of your life, no one's watching you. Integrity is who you are when you can get away with the wrong thing, but you choose the right path anyway. So fast forward to when I get out of prison, I go looking for Muhammad. But Muhammad's not his real name. It's a Muslim name. You know, when people convert, they change their name. Like Cassius Clay becomes Muhammad Ali back in the 60s, right? So I go back to Dallas and I said, hey, I'm trying to find my friend Muhammad. We did time in 2009 in your jail. And they were really nice to me, Chad, but they said, listen, we don't have any record of a guy in a Muslim name like that. We need a real name and birthday. We need vital information to find your friend, which I didn't have. So I got to hope that one day he finds me. So in this light of understanding that they don't have the record of him, I've got to go find him. He's got to find me. I've got to put myself in places where he might be. I don't know where he's from in Dallas. I just know that I met him in Dallas County Jail in 2009. I knew him for 3 weeks in 2009. This is all I knew the guy for. Life-changing encounter though, right? Anybody can be the messenger. So I start getting back into the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the prison system. They don't want you back in there. They want you to be out for at least 2 years before you go back in. They want to see that you're going to be able to hold on to your freedom and not just be one of those guys that gets out and reoffends and comes back to prison.
Right.
But they were so convinced with me whenever I did my time and how I was doing my time the first year that I was out, because you know, I get out in 2015 and in 2016, I'm asking them to go back in. They're like, we don't let people in that quickly, but we believe in you, Damon. We're going to let you back in early. So I start going around the prison system, sharing my story, sharing his story in the event that maybe he's still in prison or maybe somebody did time with him is going to be able to tell me who he was. And 4 years ago, I got the letter I was waiting on. And this letter came from an inmate in the Texas prison system. And the letter said, find James Lynn Baker and you find Muhammad. So 7 years, I waited for this one clue, right? So I go back to Dallas. I get with my lawyer. We get a private investigator. The first thing the PI found was his criminal record, and it matched everything he told me in county jail. In and out of prison his entire life. Had him in county jail when I was there in 2009. So I know it's him. We all know it's him, but we got to find his current address, and that's what we couldn't find because Muhammad was dead. Muhammad died of an opiate overdose on May 9th, 2017. You know, as of this recording, he's been dead basically 9 years now. And integrity. I owe my life to this guy, Chad. And I've had this incredible life that God's given me and this incredible impact. And God's telling me, don't stop here. Go find his family. And I told my lawyer, I said, let's go find his family so I can honor my friend and I could tell his family what he did. And my lawyer was really hesitant at first. She's like, man, listen, look what part of Dallas this guy comes from. We can't go to that part of Dallas in the daytime. You don't know what you're about to find with his family, right? I said, man, we got to find his family because, I mean, they need to hear what he did in my life. And he came from an incredible family. His little sister is a woman named Vonsil Baker. Vonsil Baker lives in Dallas. She's in her 70s. She was the first Dallas Cowboy cheerleader ever. In 1972, first woman to wear that uniform. His mother was a woman named Bertha Baker. And in 1948, Bertha Baker opened the first licensed black daycare in Dallas. So addiction doesn't care who you are, where you come from, Chad. Addiction doesn't discriminate. He
came from a good family.
Yeah, he came from a good family, just like I did. And he's got 3 living sisters. And I reached out to his sisters, Avisha, Vonsil, and Vanessa. I reached out to his sisters one day, and I told them at the time I'm at their Brother County Jail, the message that he gave me and what I was doing, that message both in prison and out of prison. And the sisters at first, they pushed back. They're like, listen, Mr. West, the guy you're talking about doesn't sound like our brother because our brother was a drug addict. He was a criminal. He would get out of prison and steal again and go back to prison. It was very hard to live with this man who was an addict. I said, you know, I understand what you're saying and I can't change the way, you know, I can't speak to the way you feel about him right now. But I know that the man I met was sober when I met him. He shared a message with me and it changed my life. And I'm changing the world with this message right now. This is just 4 years ago, Chad. So I said, listen, I think I can change the way the world sees your brother's legacy. And I may be able to change the way you see your brother too. And man, I told him, let's honor your brother. Let's start a scholarship in his name. We'll call it the James Lynn Baker II Be a Coffee Bean Scholarship. I'll fund it. Every year for the rest of my life, I'll put $10,000 into a trust, and every year your family picks the winner. So every year, one little boy or one little girl gets a chance to get out of the life they have and get a better chance at education. And the sisters took me up on it. They've been picking scholarship winners, and one of them is a little girl named Megan that, her dad's a disabled veteran. Her mother's a school teacher, and she's at Texas A&M right now. She's going to be an engineer one day. Mm-hmm. So these kids are getting a better chance at life through a legacy of two guys that met in a Dallas County jail back in 2009. And if you ever watch an interview with these sisters, their back is ramrod straight, Chad, when they talk about their brother. Yeah. My brother's a coffee bean guy. He's the guy that changed the world with his message, man. I was able to change the way a family saw a deceased family member whose life was disorganized because of substance abuse and crime, right? I mean, what's the value of that? That's a huge thing
in itself. Because his message, the Coffee Bean book. I mean, how many people has this book reached?
Oh, I mean, 500,000 at this point.
Yeah.
And John told me, we'll talk about the John Gordon part of it. John said when we wrote it, he said this message is so powerful. He said this book will sell over 1 million copies in its lifetime. And John's right about everything he says, man. He has this ability. He calls them downloads, and he gets them from God. But he's just like, he can see the future with a lot of stuff he says. And that book is done phenomenally well. But this all goes back to that night and that day in Dallas County Jail when he comes up to my cell and he shares with me this story. And I was a receptive audience to his message because I was scared to death and I was in a situation I'd never been in life. But imagine if it goes the other way. Imagine if I look at this guy who's Muslim and I'm Christian and you're a career criminal. I went to college. I had all these great jobs. What are you going to tell me that I don't already know, right? Imagine if I'd have been that ignorant guy. Well, we wouldn't be here today and the world wouldn't have a coffee bean message.
So we kind of fast forwarded to when you're out, but I want to go back to when you're in, because you had to take that message that you're sharing, probably millions of people at this point that have heard this message of the coffee bean, but you had to actually live that out as you went into this hostile environment of this penitentiary. What'd that look like on a daily basis, you living that out?
Yeah, it's a great question. So people love prison stories too. Like this story is set inside of a level 5 maximum security prison. And I say level 5, and not everybody's going to understand what that means, but that's the highest security level prison there is. It's a maximum security prison. It also has a segregation part on it. So it's a supermax on one part of it where you have segregation. So level 5 prisons, highest security level there is. They take the people with the biggest sentences, the most dangerous people, they put them in one place. I went to a prison in Beaumont, Texas called the Mark Stiles Unit. Stiles in Beaumont has 3,000 men. Now, lifers don't get to live with the 3,000 men. We have a building in the middle of the prison called 7 Building. It's like an island in the prison. 7 Building has about 432 people. Every man's got life. 95% are never going home again. This is the most dangerous place I've ever been on earth. And so I walk into 7 Building and man, I stick out like a sore thumb. I don't come from the same background as anybody here. I've got little in common with anybody, even the white guys. I mean, I don't come from the same background as them, right? And so it's brutal. The first 2 months of prison is a bloodbath. I tell people all the time that I probably get 3 dozen fights in the first 2 months and lose 75% of these fights. I'm getting my butt kicked all over prison, but I'm really winning the fights because I have to show up to the fights. Because that's what Muhammad said. Don't worry about the wins and losses. Just get up and fight. He said no one in prison cares about wins and losses. They just want to see if you will defend yourself. And Chad, I would argue that that's how life is too. No one knows your wins and losses in life. No one even knows that number but you, but everybody's watching to see if you're going to get back up. And that's what we have to do in life. If you get knocked down 7 times, get up 8. So I just keep getting back up when I'm in prison. And about 6 weeks in, it's a Monday morning. The rubber has met the road on this thing. The violence is too much. I'm about to tap out. I'm thinking about killing myself at 6 weeks in. But I used the one thing I haven't used to earn respect. I'm like, I'm going to go to the rec yard and play sports out there because I've avoided the rec yard. The rec yard was the most intimidating place in prison because it was the most segregated place in prison. Every sport on a rec yard is segregated by the color of your skin. It was like walking back in time in America, Chad. Like, so sand volleyball was for the whites and Hispanics. Handball, all the races get to play handball. But if you want to play doubles in handball, the doubles partner that you take has to be the same skin color as you, same race. The weight stack, You want someone to work out with you, someone to spot you, got to be the same skin color. The chow hall was the same way. You couldn't go to the chow hall and eat your meal at a table with people from another race. Race was everything. So 6 weeks in, I go out to the rec yard because I was a great athlete in life, and I know that sports can do it. My dad was a sports writer. Chad, my dad came to visit me in prison the week before that at visitation. I'm banged up. He can see that I'm struggling. He's asking me, he's trying to keep the conversation light at visitation. And he's like, hey, man, how's it going out there? You playing any sports? I'm like, no, Dad, I'm not playing any sports out there. And I told him about the racial dynamic of it. He said, Damon, that just doesn't jive with me because sports is the great uniter. Sports is really the one thing that brings Americans together like nothing else can. This guy that had a 50-year career as a sports writer, he couldn't wrap his brain around segregated sports, right?
Yeah.
Because, he's telling me before there was Martin Luther King Jr., there was Jackie Robinson, a baseball player, Before you ever integrated lunch counters in the South, you integrated locker rooms. And sports is like the thing that everybody comes together to root for their team. So a segregated sport was something he couldn't wrap his brain around. He's like, damn it, you got to get out there and play sports with these guys. So Monday morning, I listen to my dad. I go out to the rec yard. I pass up all the other sports and I head straight for the basketball court. The blacks run the basketball court. No white guys are allowed. But I go out there and I tell these guys I want to get in a game of basketball. And they're like, all right, white boy, get in this game. And it's 9-on-1 basketball, Chad. It's like there's no allies on this court. And all the other people are watching this. Even the white gangs are like, man, get him, And I keep showing them every day out there. I get a little bit better, a little stronger, a little more confident. My buddy, Ed Milet, he says confidence comes from the promises that you keep to yourself. And that was a quote that I heard later in life, but it was true in my life back then because every day when I got off the rec yard, I promised myself, damn, you have to come back. You can't back down now. And so I think that in life, if you're willing to do things you're afraid of, you can do more things you're afraid of. So you face those fears. My dad would tell me that. He said, do things you're afraid of so you can do things you're afraid of. And so I was afraid to go to that basketball court every day. I didn't want to go, I did. But that's life, man. You have to do the hard things in life. And if you want to be above average person, you're going to do some hard things. And you're going to get knocked down. And it's that whole week on the basketball court was just getting knocked down. But after a week of playing basketball, those guys circled around in the basketball court and the blacks said, hey, man, you've earned your right, man. You're an independent now. You don't have to worry about us anymore. We're not going to bother you anymore. Go live your life. Just be your independent self, mind your own business, stay in your lane. You're good to go. So 2 months.
So that's earning your right from the blacks or earning your right from everyone?
Everyone. Well, the blacks were the last one to get through because the whites, so just like Muhammad said, he said the white gangs will come after you first. And if you survive the white gangs, they'll send the black gangs after you. So at that point, the blacks were coming after me because the white gangs are like, hey, man, get this guy over here with us, man. He's straggling along. He thinks he's going to be an independent. And to earn your right to walk on a yard as an independent is a very tough thing. The easiest thing to do is get into a gang. And that's what most people do, Chad, because
it's easy.
It's easy.
Most people do what's easy.
That's life, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Most people do the easy thing in life. Right. The good stuff is the hard stuff, Chad. That's where the biggest reward is. And on your point about it being easy, you find out later in life, the bill for that easy was way more than you really wanted to pay.
Yeah.
And it seems
easy.
It seems easy. So whenever I was getting out of prison, we'll go back to some prison stories, but to your question or your point, which is very good. The last couple of weeks I'm in prison, I'm in a transfer facility, a pre-release center that everybody made parole, and everything's still segregated by race. So I go in the day room one day, all the Aryan Brotherhood, Aryan Circle guys are sitting at one table, and they look miserable, Chad. And I'm like, man, what the hell is wrong with y'all? We're about to walk out of prison.
Yeah.
And they're all like, man, yeah, but we got to report when we get out. And I said, well, I got to report to my parole officer too. I got 48 hours to report to my PO. They're like, no, dumbass. We got to report to the gang. And I'm like, man, this isn't over. They're like, this is for life, man. If we don't report to the gang, they come after us. They come after our families. This is forever. I said, then you're going to keep coming back to prison forever because you're part of a criminal gang, These guys made a decision to take the easy route when they got to prison. And I'm pretty sure everybody at that table is still paying that price today.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's tough, man. Prison was a hard environment. I had a bachelor's degree in sociology. And so having a bachelor's degree in prison was a rare thing in state prison because most of the guys I'm locked up with didn't have the opportunities I had in life. And I'm not saying that just because you don't have the opportunities doesn't mean you can't get somewhere in life. But there were 5 variables that I really noticed about who goes to prison, because having that sociology degree, prison was like waking up in a giant sociological petri dish.
Yeah.
Like I was in a lab, man, and I am the lab experiment some days, And so I wanted to know who goes to prison in America. And so there were 5 variables I could identify, like who goes to prison. So the first variable, the one that affected the most people, poverty. Poor people go to prison more than anybody else. The second variable was lack of education. Lack of an education, Chad. I mean, education is a very important thing. And if you don't have education in this country, we've unfortunately picked a path where we push too many people towards a formal education. I think that this country has messed up years ago. We should be pushing people trades, whatever they're good at.
Universities are highly overrated.
Even
overpriced, overrated.
Even the high school equivalency degree. Like, if school's not your thing and school's not for everybody, let's get you in the path of what really blows your hair back. You may be a mechanic, and you may not need to go to school, but you need some fundamental things, like learn how to balance a checkbook and stuff like that. But that's not school.
Yeah, some of the most successful people I know, like right now in like my immediate circle, are like in construction and HVAC, electricians, plumbers.
Yeah,
learned it, worked in it, became a business owner in it, and are killing it.
I met a lot of guys in prison got to the trades while they're in there, and that's what they're doing now that they got out.
Yeah,
they're working in trades, man. So, but going to prison, like, on the outside in the free world, poverty, lack of education, lack of a family unit. The family unit is dead in America right now, Chad, and it has been for years. There were very few guys in there that came from a 2-parent home like me. I mean, and this is stuff I didn't do in life. God put me in this position in life. He gave me 2 great parents that stayed married, and marriages are a lot of work, but my parents stuck through it, and I had 2 parents in the home. Most of these guys I'm locked up with came from a single parent home. Some of them didn't have any parent. There was a guy I was locked up with. Remember, I'm with lifers, man. I'm with the real dangerous guys. There's a guy that had scars all over his arm. And I asked him one day on the rec yard, man, where'd you get those scars from? He said, oh, those were from my mother. He said, starting at about 7 years old, his mom would send him out to snatch purses. And he said, if I would bring these purses back that didn't have any money, or I didn't bring enough purses back, my mom would burn me with cigarettes. This guy's body was littered with scars that his mother gave him. And I mean, how do you fix that guy, right? That's trauma healing. That's on a different level. So
not the physical trauma.
Yeah. And so it's like
emotional betrayal and trauma from your mother.
And so it's like prisons are made for people too, because you need prisons, and I deserve to be in prison. So I'm not telling you this from an outsider looking in. I lived it, and I knew I was supposed to be there. But while I'm there, let me learn from the people around you. And I learned that everybody in life is a teacher. Some people are there to teach you how to do things. Some people are to teach you how not to do things. And so I'm around all these teachers and I'm learning. But poverty, lack of education, lack of a family unit, race is a big one, Chad. I mean, like when I walk into prison, almost half the population looking back at me is black men or men of color. And I'm like, wow, this is wild, because they don't make up the majority of our population.
They make 13% of the population is black.
Yeah, it's just like, how did they commit 50% of the crime? And the answer is they didn't. But there's some things we have to deal with in this country on that level too, with race. Mm-hmm. But the last one was the variable that touched me was substance abuse. So poverty, lack of education, lack of a family unit, race, and then substance abuse. These are in order of highest to lowest.
Can I ask you before you jump into substance abuse? Because you missed one that I think is a factor. Is I've went and spoken in a few prisons as well. Not let you have. I've just been asked to share my story, and I noticed these phenomenal ministry programs, outreach that are in prisons, that come into prisons, and they're helping the recidivism of people that go through faith-based programs. The recidivism rate is just highly reduced from people that go through these faith-based programs. And so you look at a back end, a place that introduces faith, and coming out of as a remedy for a culture that has taken faith out of culture. So you take Bibles out of schools and you put them in prisons. What if that was turned around? You put the Bibles and faith back in our youth and our culture and our schools.
Yeah.
I mean, how much of that would you say is of those 5 things? I mean,
so
part of that.
Here's what I noticed in prison is a lot of these men that I'm locked up with, they came from a background where faith was in their homes. They didn't have, not necessarily all in their homes. Like that would be a broad stroke to paint it all with.
Right.
But
Right. If you're a cultural Catholic, like that doesn't change.
And some of these guys that didn't have two parents at home, they would grow up with their moms, they grew up with their grandmas and stuff like that, who would go to church, but they never took to it.
Right.
It wasn't like they weren't ever introduced to faith. And I'm not against, look, I think anywhere you can introduce faith in people's lives is a great thing. I'm a believer. I'm a Christian.
Right.
I believe, but here's what I would say. So what you said, I'm for that. I'm for putting faith back in every institution we can, because I think there's a lot of great that comes from faith. But addicts, people that are truly addicts like me, and the numbers say that 80% of the people locked up have substance abuse issues, are real
80%,
addicts.
wow.
80%. And that's a men's prison. Women's prisons, women go through a lot more trauma than men do to get to a prison. Like there's men that abuse women in a lot of different ways, and drugs are a big part of that. But here's what I would tell you that I know about addiction. So as an addict, for me, I need a program of recovery that works parallel to my faith. That's why I got into the 12 steps. The 12 steps doesn't like replace my faith, because in the 12 steps, they tell us to pick a higher power. So everybody should find something they believe in, is what they're basically saying. And anybody can pick their higher power. Now, I'm a Christian, so mine is Christ. That's my higher power in life. And so, but in the 12 steps, we have a sponsor. And this sponsor is somebody that we can turn to in the group that we go to for these meetings, these 12-step meetings. There's people in that group that have been down the road we've been down. They've done the same things we've done to get there. They've hit that rock bottom you talked about, which is a great foundation to grow and build a life on. But they're also the people that can help you out when you have these thoughts of drinking or doing drugs again, because you're going to have these thoughts. The thoughts are going to be with your brain has a thing called euphoric recall. Euphoric recall is when your brain likes to repeat success. It is a defense mechanism that helps us get past tough times. And in euphoric recall, sometimes we forget how bad things were. And then when that thought creeps in one day of drinking or doing drugs, that thought, if left alone for an addict, will become an obsession. That obsession will become something physical they'll put in. Thought, obsession, physical. And for an addict, a real addict like me, I'm not going to say every addict, but an addict like me, I need someone I can go turn to, that if I say, hey, I'm having a thought or drinking or doing drugs, if I went up to a pastor or a priest, I said, hey, Father, hey, Pastor, I'm having these thoughts about drinking or doing drugs. You know what they're going to tell me to do? Pray.
Pray about it.
Because that's what they're trained to do, Chad. That's what their job is in ministry.
That's why these peer level, be it faith-based or not, these peer level programs works. That's what Mighty Oaks. I mean, Mighty Oaks is, we intentionally don't have, we may have a few people on our staff that have clinical counseling or clinical therapy certifications, but they're not allowed to be in that capacity.
Yeah.
They have to be in a peer level capacity.
That's great.
To do this life mentorship.
Because you've been there.
Level. Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. You have the currency, man. All in life that I found out about having impact and mentors and stuff like that is they have to have a shared currency. Like you've already done the things I want to do. And so if someone is around me that's already been able to stay sober, then that's the person I want to be around. That's the person I'm going to turn to, because that person, if I tell them I'm having a thought or drinking or doing drugs, they're not going to tell me to go pray on it. They're going to say, well, let's play with that thought. Let's talk about what, and then you're going to do this thing in recovery they call playing the tape out all the way to the end. So, it happened to me one time when I was out of prison. I had a thought about drinking one night at a Christmas party. I called my sponsor up, man. I left the party, called my sponsor up, man. I had this thought about drinking tonight, man. I can't shake this thought. He said, well, let's play with that thought. He said, imagine you're back at the party. Imagine you're drinking the glass of wine. You drinking it? I was like, yeah. All right, I'm drinking it. He said, good. Now that we're drinking again, what'd you like to drink in the world? I said, well, bourbon. I was a bourbon guy, Chad. He said, good, drink your bourbon. He said, now that we're drinking bourbon, let's do some drugs. What kind of drugs did you do when you were out there drinking bourbon? I was like, well, cocaine, because cocaine and bourbon go together really well. And these are two addicts talking to each other, right?
Yeah.
This is different than your pastor, right?
Right.
So, and he said, now that we're doing drugs again, let's get to the real drug, man. What was the drug that did you in? It wasn't coke. What was your drug? I said, meth. He said, that's right. You were a meth head. He said, so smoke your meth. You smoking it? I said, all right, I'm smoking meth again. He said, how's parole working out for you? I was like, man, I wasn't thinking about parole. We're way past praying about it, man. We're like, now he's like, what did parole tell you would happen if you couldn't follow the rules of parole? And Chad, they told me, you got a second chance, Mr. West. You won't be a third. So I'm going back to prison. And he said, where are you now? I said, I'm on the prison bus. I'm chained to another human being. I just broke my family's life up apart. Again, I just destroyed my life. He goes, yeah. He said, those bus rides are long. You're going to be hungry. He said, so now imagine yourself, you're back in prison, you're at the Styles unit. Go put your mattress down in your cell, put your bags down, get to the chow hall. Get that last chow of the day. They're serving it right now. You can smell it. He said, what was the worst meal they ever served you in prison? I said, pork noodle casserole. Chad, I don't know what's in pork noodle casserole, and I don't think the prison people know either. It's just slop.
It's probably not pork.
Yeah, it's probably not pork. He said, go to the chow hall. Now you're walking through the line. He said, get you a big bowl of pork noodle casserole. Sit down at the metal table in that chow hall and eat your pork noodle casserole and wash it down with that glass of wine that you want to have tonight. Because that's where the glass of wine is going to take you. Back to that chow hall eating pork noodle casserole. He said, you got it? I said, yeah, man, I got it. He said, good. Go back to the party. Have a good time with your friends. If you need me again, call me. I'm always here for you. Yeah. He hung up. I went back to the party, Chad. That's what a program recovery does. And that's why, to answer your question, I think putting faith everywhere you can is a great thing. Yeah. But I think addicts need more than just the faith.
100% agree.
You need a program recovery, whatever that is. It doesn't have to be the 12 steps. It can be anything where you have someone.
And there's a lot of 12 steps. I think the 12-step programs are good. The one I was looking up was Celebrate Recovery.
Oh, Celebrate Recovery is great.
Yeah. I was
it's a biblical-based 12 steps.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's got the sponsorship element to it of someone that's got the shared currency.
You have to have that.
You have to have that.
Peer level experiences. You have to have that. Yeah, I agree with you.
If someone was, so if there's a Devroo guy, that's what, your background is. There's a Devroo guy going through something right now. You're the better guy to talk to him than I am. If there's a guy, if there's somebody that's struggling in life, they feel like they're in a mental prison, maybe I can help with that person. Because honestly, I think that your currency, it's like that. I told you that quote at the very beginning from Ed, man. You're most qualified to help the person you once were.
Hey guys, Chad Robichaux here, former Marine, humanitarian, and host of The Resilient Show. And I want to talk to you about Goldco. I do not like to promote anything that I'm not a personal user of. And one of the things I'm really into and have been for a while is just preparing for anything that could go wrong, from natural disasters to security threats, to the grid going down and financial instabilities, particularly in our financial markets. And so a long time ago, I made the decision to invest in precious metals, mainly gold and silver, because to have those tangible assets on hand makes you prepared and makes you resilient. And that's what the Resilient Show is all about, informing, educating, and equipping people to be resilient. And I partnered with the #1 precious metals company in the industry because I want to bring the right people not only to my own family dynamic, but make them available to you. If you're looking for gold and silver tangible on hand, then they're the place to go to. They have become an incredible partner, and they have special bonus offers that you can find if you go to chadlikesgold.com. You could get, if you buy with cash, you get 10% extra, a free gold or silver. You get your own safe at your house. For larger orders, you get a free home safe. There's tons of additional things you can get. So get equipped, be prepared, be resilient by going to chadlikesgold.com and get your tangible gold and silver today. Yeah.
And so, but
I mean, we're sitting in a, as they're building the construction outside, it's the global headquarters for Mighty Oaks. And we have, 35 people on full-time staff, but over 100 something guys that are part-time instructors. And every one of our instructors came through our program.
That's
as
incredible.
A student, struggling, found restoration in the relationship with Jesus, learned how to make good decisions in life again, followed our methodology to move forward. And part of that methodology to move forward is discipleship and paying it forward. And they came forward and paid it forward on a peer level. And that, I mean, when you step into that peer-to-peer level, like you're helping, you're getting mentored by the person in front of you.
Yeah.
And you're in your own recovery, but you're also helping the people behind you. And it becomes a community.
It's
a culture and community.
Chad, this is a great segue to what we're talking about in prison. Like what you're talking about is exactly what had to happen in prison. Like what you're doing at Mighty Oaks is great. Those people that came through here, they're carrying the culture too.
Yeah.
Because they're not just someone that read about it, someone that say, hey, I want a job. They're like, they lived it, man. So they've gone through, they know it works. They're the living, breathe, the example that it works, right?
And there's passion there.
There's passion. So whenever I'm in prison, and I've established myself, and I'm trying to become a better man. First thing I had to do is change the way I think, and your old thinking can't take you to new places. So you have to change. I had to change the way I saw prison. I stopped looking at prison as a punishment, and I started seeing prison as an opportunity. Mm-hmm. Shift of mindset, right? This is no longer going to be a punishment. This is an opportunity. I got 24 hours a day, 7 days to work on me. So I start working on myself because that's the first thing I can change. I can only change myself. I can't change anybody else, but if I can change the way they think, they can change themselves, right? So I'm struggling to get anybody to follow me on this coffee bean thing. And I'm trying to create this community of coffee beans, like you were talking about, creating a community.
Yeah.
No one will follow me. So every Monday night we go to the chapel, and Chad, the chapel was my life raft from prison. You talk about God and Christ and all, man, that's where I was, man.
Oh, so you're talking about the coffee bean meth in prison?
Oh yeah, I'm trying to get these guys to buy into this thing, man, because Muhammad told me, he said, you have to change the water around you with the power inside you. So I'm trying to.
You're an egg, you're a carrot, you're an egg, you're a carrot.
Well, they're mostly eggs. I asked him before I went to prison, what am I going to find more of? He said, you're going to find more eggs. He said the egg is the natural evolution of any human being in any difficult
Because
situation.
most people are soft. They go in soft and they come out hard.
People get angry first. He said, you're gonna find more eggs in there. He said, the truth is you'll probably be an egg too. So I didn't want to be the egg, because the egg can't go home to mom and dad. So I'm trying. First of all, I'm becoming a coffee bean, and I'm using things like having positive body language, because your smile is powerful. You can change the energy in a room with the expression of your face. And every day I'm working on myself, spiritually, mentally, physically, everything. Every day you're responsible for your mind, your body, your soul. But these guys aren't following me. So every Monday night we could go to the chapel and we could fellowship with these Christian men that would come in. It was great, man. So these guys would come in, they're from every walk of life. Back in Southeast Texas, there's a lot of refineries there. So you have refinery workers, you'd have local businessmen. There was a local businessman that would come in every Monday night. His name was Joe DeTorres. You would have loved Joe. Joe passed away in 2019. Joe could have been anyone in the world, Chad. Joe had a private jet. He had thousands of employees, millions of dollars. Joe was the guy that started a restaurant chain called Jason's Deli. It's from Beaumont.
Yeah.
So this Jason's Deli CEO is in there every Monday night in the chapel, and you could just go talk to him, pick his brain. So I was talking to Joe one night. I'm like, Joe, man, I'm really struggling to get these guys to follow me in here. He said, these men will never follow you until you serve these men, because a leader serves his people. He said, servant leadership is what you need. It's what I needed to build my business to where it was. He said, servant leadership is helping other people reach their goals in life, helping to raise other people to a different station of life, because when we help other people grow, we grow. He said, if you'll go back to your cell tonight and you'll think about what your gift is to this pod, and then when you've discovered your gift that you can give this pod, give it away for free. Give it to these men. He said, then these men will follow you. So I go back to my cell, and I'm talking to my cellmate, this little Hispanic guy named Carlos. He's a bank robber from San Antonio, good guy. So I'm telling Carlos, I'm like, hey, Carlos, man, I had this conversation with Joe tonight at the chapel, man, and I need to find out what my gift is. What's my gift? He said, well, it's obvious. It's education. He said, you had a bachelor's degree. These guys around you, their education stopped somewhere in junior high, early high school, man. So I opened up a free tutoring service in prison. Remember, we're lifers. We can't go to educational classes. So I became the school in prison. I started teaching guys how to read and write. I got them ready for the GED test. So if they ever got out of prison, they would be a better husband or better father, because I think the world needs more fathers, or if they just wanted to read a book. Books are how you pass your time in prison. Now these guys can write letters home too. They're learning how to read and write. And all these guys in prison's a very transactional environment. There's nothing free in prison. So these guys are like, man, I've got to pay you something for these classes. That's what the code of conduct is in here. And I said, man, I'm very blessed. My family's taking care of me. You don't have to pay me anything. I said, don't pay it back, pay it forward. I said, you've got a gift. Find out what your gift is to the pod and give it away to somebody else. And when you serve that person, tell them to do the same thing with their gift. Chat. So I'm teaching this Hispanic guy that's an artist how to read and write. He's the best artist in the pod. There's a guy that wants to do a Christmas card that year for his family. He's indigent, has no money. This artist does a Christmas card for him. He tells that guy, now you pay it forward. Well, this guy's indigent. He didn't know how he's going to pay it forward. I have no money, but he's got 2 legs at work. So now this indigent guy pushes handicapped people to chow all the time. Now those handicapped people that got his gift, give their gift away to somebody else. You know what I'm saying? This is how prison changed. The world changed in there because they learned how to serve. We built a community built upon servant leadership. And I mean, it was just the most amazing thing happening inside this prison. And it didn't go unnoticed, because in 2015, the parole board comes to interview me. Now, parole was the dream of every man and woman in prison. It is your only way out of a prison. And I know at 7 years I'm up for parole, Chad, but I don't think I'm going to make the first parole. It's rare that someone makes the first parole in a life sentence.
With 65 years.
With 65. Yeah, man. There's because, I mean, why give you parole like that when you can leave you here a little bit longer, and it doesn't matter. You're on parole the rest of your life when you get out anyway, right?
Yeah.
So I go to this parole meeting that day in 2015. The lady from parole called me in. Have a seat, Mr. West. Sit down. So I sit down for the biggest sales pitch I'll ever make. And she's flipping through my criminal file for about 20 seconds. She slammed the file shut. She pushed it away. She said, Mr. West, I came here today to ask you one question for this parole hearing. She said, my one question, she said, you know, you had everything going in life. She said, I've been doing this parole thing a long time. She said, you had it all. I don't see a lot of people like this that had everything going in life, but you threw it all away. You became a drug addict, a criminal, and a thief. And a jury in Dallas gave you life in prison. But instead of letting the life sentence define you, you changed yourself in this prison, Mr. West. But what got our attention is you didn't just change yourself. You changed the entire prison. One man changed the prison. And it dawned on me, Chad, as I'm sitting in that chair. I'm only sitting in that chair because these guys were willing to buy into this coffee bean thing and build a community around. Like, I'm representing everybody in this chair. She says, so my question for you is this. She said, if you could be remembered for being anything in life, anything at all, she said, tell me what that one thing would be, but give it to me in just one word. Go. I knew the answer, Chad, because I've been living that answer the whole time I was in prison. And I fired her answer back at her and I said, useful. I said, I just want to be useful because every human being wants to have value, Chad. Every human I've ever met, whether it's in a level 5 prison or out here in the free world, wants the same two things in life. We all want to belong and we all want to be loved. And when those two things are met, I know the human spirit is capable of anything. I told her, I said, man, I just want to be useful. And I can be useful in this prison, or I could be useful in the free world again. November 16th, 2015, I walk out of a Texas prison.
How'd you get informed? Was she informed you right there?
Here's how it happened. That's a great question. Did you prep for this with that?
No, that's
it's well, okay. So
I'm just curious.
This is a story. I don't even think I've ever told this on a podcast. So I wrote about it in one of my books. I was like, man, did you read my book? Like, this is all right. So, the way I'm informed about it, you don't find out that day you made parole. She said, Mr. West, that's a good answer. Thank you for the interview today. Have a great day. I leave. Don't know what's going to happen. I don't have any expectation I'll make it.
You can't let hope. You can't let yourself get hopeful for that, right?
You have to have hope, though, Chad. You have to have hope, but you got to have rules on that hope.
Yeah, you can set yourself up to be.
Yeah, like you got to have
to be really let down.
Almost like hope at arm's length. Like let me put a little distance between hope and me.
Get your heart broken.
I see you there, hope, but I don't really want to pull you in too close. Yeah. So I leave that meeting that day, and about 6 weeks later,
that was the egg in me, by the way.
Yeah, that's. But I mean, you ever seen the movie Shawshank?
Oh yeah.
So Shawshank's the best prison movie of all the movies. I saw him. My dad recorded them all while I was in prison. He wanted me to watch them, and so he was like, tell me what the best one was. I was like, well, Shawshank. And he said, why? I said, because Shawshank's about hope, and the reason why it's so good is that prisons are hopeless places. That's why prisons are so dangerous. That's why you need Jesus Christ in a prison, man, because you have to have hope. The whole movie wasn't even about Andy, the guy that went to the innocent guy. It was about Red, the guy that was in prison. Morgan Freeman's character. Yeah. Red had no hope. Andy represented hope. And you know it by the end of the movie when Red gets out and he finds Andy, in the last minute of dialogue in Shawshank, he says the words, I hope I make it across the border. I hope I see my friend again so I can shake his hand. I hope the Pacific is as blue as it was in my dreams. I hope. It's the last two words of the movie. So I told my dad, Shawshank was the best one because it represented the evolution of hope.
Yeah.
So about 6 weeks after that interview, it was on a Friday, May the 1st of 2000.
6 weeks.
Yeah, 6 weeks you're sitting there, but I'd written it off already. I went back to living my life in prison, and I believe that if you want to be resilient, you want to understand how you get through life, you have to understand the things you can control. And the things you can control are 4 things. You control what you think, what you say, what you feel, and what you do. That's it. This is it. I mean, it's the whole ball game. If you don't control those 4 things, then who does? That's why you need faith. That's why you need God, right? Because God controls the rest of that. You get these 4 things every day. And if you can focus on those 4 things and let the other things in the world go on around you, you can have a pretty good life and you can stay focused and get things done. So I get back in this zone of just like, all right, I don't control parole. Whatever they're going to decide is up to them. But 6 weeks later, it was May 1st, 2015. I was on a Friday. I know my parents are going to come see me at visitation, so I'm calling my mom. I work in the chapel too. I had a great job in the chapel, Chad. It was great. The chapel was my life raft. So I called my mom on that Friday afternoon, my lunch break from work at the chapel. Prison's like a society. You have a job, you go to work every day, you have a lunch break. Monday through Friday, you're working. Saturday, Sunday, you're off, watching sports with your buddies. So that Friday afternoon lunch, I go back to the pod. I call my mom. I said, hey, Mom, I'm checking in about the visit tomorrow. She said, Damon, I need to talk to you. She said, I was on the parole website just now. And immediately when she said parole, my stomach dropped. I'm like, Mom, I'm sorry. I told you this wouldn't be the year, and next year, maybe it'll be our year. I'm immediately like trying to fix because I know she's going to tell me I didn't make it. She said, baby, you made parole. You're coming home. You got this program you're going to for 6 months, the substance abuse program. But she said, the nightmare's over, Damon. You're going home. And man, I said, Mom, don't play with me. Don't do this. And she's like, I'm being serious, Damon. I get emotional and talk about it. And she said, it's over. And you're going to come home, Damon. And immediately, like I'm doing now, I started crying. I started bawling on the phone in the day room. Broke one of the biggest rules in prison too. Showing that emotion, man. You cannot cry in prison. Prison's a very predatory environment. And when people see something like that happen, you open yourself up to some bad stuff. And I realized it quickly. I started wiping the tears away. I told my mom, I said, Mom, I got to go. I'll call you later. I hung up the phone. I ran back to the chapel. And now I'm telling the guys in the chapel, the guys I work with, the chaplain in there, hey, good news, bad news. Good news is I made parole and I'm going home. The prison bus is going to be here in 2 weeks to pick me up. The bad news is everybody's going to figure it out because I was crying on the phone. And the chaplain jumps in. He said that we need to come up with a good lie for you. He said we need to figure out why you were crying. The chaplain, right? This is like preservation of life, man. And he's like, okay. He said, I'm going to go along with this lie. Guys, everybody around here, Damon, your grandmother's still alive. I was like, well, my grandmother died. He said, perfect. He said, so we'll use that grandmother's death. All right. So my grandmother died, earlier in my incarceration. He said, all right, so what we're going to say is that your mom called and said your grandmother died. I'm going to back you up. Guys, y'all going to back up Damon too? Everybody's on for the ride, right? So I was like,
because you want to keep it a secret to your.
Here's the thing. Exactly. Right. Very good point. You understand life and human behavior. In prison, if you make parole, it gives everybody the indication if they've got any beef with you. Now's their time to do it. Because once you make parole, you can't get any more fights. There's no more fighting back. There's no legal fight in prison. If you fight back, you're as guilty as the guy that threw the first punch. So you can't get in any more trouble. Any infraction revokes your parole. So I go back to the pod. I got a straight face on. I go up to my cell, and I live in the dorms at this point. I moved off the life sentence building. This is at the end of prison. And I'm getting ready to get my shower stuff, and I see these two Aryan Brotherhood guys coming at me. I'm like, oh, man, what do these guys want? And one of them was like, hey, man, congratulations, West. I was like, congratulations? I said, what are you talking about? He said, we made parole. I said, made parole? He said, well, yeah, you were crying on the phone over there a while ago. Everybody knows you made parole. I said, no, man, my grandmother died. He said, man, one of our guys saw you crying and called his mom. His mom checked the parole site. You made parole. Oh, yeah. These guys are on it, man. It's like my heart dropped. My stomach sank. I was like, oh. He said, listen, man, how much food do you have in your locker right now? Commissary food, stuff you buy in the commissary. So he's like, look, right now, go inventory. So I look at it, and I said, I've got about 2 weeks maybe, maybe 10 days, 2 weeks. He said, listen, you can't go to the chow hall ever again. Don't go to the chow hall. Don't go to the rec yard. Don't go anywhere you're not supposed to be. Go to work every day at the chapel, come back, take a shower, go back to your bunk. Do this until the bus comes to get you in 2 weeks. If you run out of food, we got you, man. We want to see you get out of here. And man, I was blown away, Chad, because even in an environment like that where it's a very predatory environment, it's a very tough environment. Those guys, even though we didn't go in the same path, they're
the first ones that came after you.
You're the first one that came after me, but these guys, despite the fact that there was this beef that I had with a lot of these the white gangs because I didn't go their path, they saw through that. And they were men of faith too. Mm-hmm. They are, we're going to make sure you get out of here. And so, Chad, from May 1st to May 15th, I didn't leave my cell except to go to the chow hall, except to go to my job and come back. I never went to the rec yard again. I never went to the chow hall again. I never saw the chow hall for the last 2 weeks of prison. And on the night of May 14th.
No more pork noodles.
Yeah, no more pork noodle casserole. And that wasn't a terrible thing. But on the night of May 14th, 2015, the guard, and I was in prison in Beaumont, which is right next to Port Arthur where I grew up. So I knew some of the guards, played football with some of the guards. The guard that came up the last night, I played football with this guy in high school, junior high and high school. And he had these red bags. They call them chain bags. A chain means you're on chain. You're on a bus chain somewhere. It's an old term in prison because they actually used to chain people up, and you go in the chain gang and leave the prison.
Right.
So the term is still, it's a 100-year-old term. You're on chain means you're leaving prison. And this guard comes up, and he said, and I knew this kid. I grew up with him, you know. He said, "This bag's for you, Damon." He said, "You're on chain, man. You're getting out of here." And I just breathed out a sigh of relief, you know, because I'm actually going to leave. And he said, "Look, get your stuff packed up." And he said, you'll be here for the rest of the night. I will monitor you. In the morning, I'm going to come get you and escort you personally off the unit. Make sure you get out of here, man, because we don't want anything to happen to you, but you're going home, man. And find me whenever you find me whenever you get home, man, because I still live in Port Arthur. So I was like, great, man. He gave me the bag. I packed my stuff up. And the next morning, he comes to get me, just like he said. And we're leaving prison. And all I've got to do is make it to the prison bus, man. That's it. And I'm out of here. I'm leaving the Styles unit, and I'm going to the 6-month facility where everybody's made parole, you know. But Styles is where I've got to get off of. It's the most dangerous place for me right now because there's people gunning for me. Like, the word is out. I made parole, but I haven't been available to anybody yet, you know. So this is the most vulnerable time I've got. I've got one guard escort me, and we're making it across the unit. And then here comes this guy bolting across from one of the other sides, from the life sentence side, right? And the guard, my buddy's on point. He's like, what's going on? I said, oh, wait, I know him. And I was like, he's my friend. He said, man, are you sure? I said, yes, man. It's this other cellmate that I once had. His name was Sabor, another Muslim guy. And Sabor, he said, man, I said, can I go tell my brother bye? He's like a brother to me, man. He's like, man, make it quick, Damon. He's like, I get you on this bus. And so I go and I see Sabor. We hug each other. It's very emotional. He's crying. I'm crying. He said, man, I'm happy for you, Damon. I'm so happy for your family. He said, but I got to ask you something, man, before you leave this place. I'm like, man, ask me. Whatever it is, Sabor, ask me. He said, are you going to think about us when you leave this place? You're going to forget about us. I was like, no, man. He said, you know, tell everybody about us, man. Be an advocate for us. I said, I will, man. When I get on my feet, you know, I will. And Sabor said something to me that hit me between the eyes, Chad. He said, good. He said, sometimes they lock up the right guy. I'm like, man, what do you mean, Sabor? He said, look at you, man. You're white, you're middle class, you're well-spoken. You got a job. I had a job waiting for me at a law firm. I did my own legal work in prison that got the attention of all these lawyers, and the most prestigious firm in Beaumont, the Provost Humphrey Law Firm, had a job waiting for me the day I get out of prison. He said, you got 2 parents waiting for you out there. He said, people will listen to you, man. He said, you can become the biggest advocate for us in here. And I left, and I never forgot about that. And that's one of the things I've tried to do in life since I left prison, is to advocate both for the inmates that are still in there, because I know I'm a message of hope, but, you know, also for the staff that's in there too.
You're talking right now about you volunteer to go speak at all these prisons, which, by the way, you were just recently allowed to do because current administration cleared you to be able to do that.
Yeah, man.
As someone on parole, because you're still on parole.
Yeah, I'm on parole the rest of my life. And so the last administration, I tried to get back into the federal prison system, and this person from the DOJ told me, we can't allow you in because you're on parole till 2073, but you can get with us when you're off parole. And I'm like, I'll be 98. Like,
yeah.
And the thing is, I pass up all these prisons on the road. I'm on the road 280, 300 days a year speaking all over America. People bring me in to speak. Like, I'm a very well-traveled speaker, and I pass up federal prisons all the time. I've never been able to go in. But this past summer, I got a phone call from a guy named Josh Smith. And Josh Smith is the deputy director of the Federal Bureau of Prisons now. But before that, Josh Smith was a business owner in Tennessee, and he was also an ex-con. You see, Josh had done time too. There's a fraternity out there, Chad, of a bunch of ex-cons. We're all out there doing big things in life. We're showing people that rehabilitation is possible, and we're all kind of connected. It's like a loose little fraternity, if you will.
Right.
So Josh calls me up last summer. He says, listen, I got this new gig. You know, the president has appointed me to be the deputy director of the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and Trump had given him a pardon in the first term. And in the second term, he's like calling him back and said, hey, I need you to come up and help me clean the prison system out. Trump's the only president that's ever tried to tackle the Bureau of Prisons. And I got a lot of respect for Trump for doing this, President Trump for doing this. And so he said, listen, I need the coffee bean message in the prison, but I don't have any money to pay you. I don't have a dime to pay you. The government's a wreck. I was like, Josh, there's a lot of ways to be paid in life. Money's just one of them, man. I said, I need to be in there. And I said, if you'll get the DOJ to let me in, man, I'll do it for free. I'll go to every prison you have. And you got 121 prisons. I'll hit them all, man, by the time I'm done. But he just got to open the gate for me. And he did. The director of prisons is a guy named William Marshall III. And so he got involved, and the attorney general got involved, and they approved me to go to every federal prison. Chad, I get to. And I think one of the things about having a resilient mindset life is a get-to mindset. I get to go to prisons all over America, walk in there, inspire the men and women in there that are serving as workers in the prison. Because here's the deal. Like, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for a very dedicated staff that made sure I got to my classes where I could become a rehabilitated man, the chapel, which was my life raft. If I needed a counselor to go to, they had counselors on staff, medical people, wardens, captains, majors, all the people that make up the quilt work of a prison. I was a beneficiary of that. And when I got my master's degree, there's a number that stuck with me, 95%. 95% represents the number of people that are incarcerated that get out of prison. They get out of incarceration. There's about 3 million people in America that are under some form of incarceration. And those 3 million people, 95% get out. They're going to be walking on your street one day. They're going to be in the line at Walmart next to your family. They're going to be pumping gas next to you. We want that 95% to have the best opportunity to turn their life around. Now, ultimately, that's up to the inmate. It's always up to the inmate to do that. But we need a healthy staff to do that. And, prison workers, staff in corrections, one of the highest suicide rates in America.
Hard job.
One of the highest divorce rates, maybe 65%. That's maybe the highest divorce rate of any occupation. Their life mortality is about 8 years less than a normal human being in America that doesn't work in corrections. Their family members go through the same thing. Substance abuse. They're dealing with a lot of the stresses of prison because you become institutionalized whether or not you're serving time or whether or not you're working there. And it's a very tough environment. So I really believe at this 11 years out, after the first 10 years, one of my biggest purposes in life is to give back to correctional officers and thank them and show them the example that rehabilitation works and advocate for them to have better resources for them in their job. Yeah. So it's been a great life, but
it's been part of keeping that promise to your buddy.
Yeah. I mean, I only tell this story like around faith-based audiences. When I got out of prison on November 16, 2015, I'm running in my parents' car in the parking lot. I stopped because Jesus is talking to me. Jesus talked to me the whole time I was in prison. I think prayer is when you talk to God and meditation is when you listen to God. So through prayer and meditation, I've been having conversations with Christ the whole time. And here's that familiar voice hitting me right when I walk out of prison. Damon, stop, turn around. I turn back around. I'm looking back at the guard tower. The guard's looking at me like, what are you doing, man? Go, And here's what he says. You're going to work for me now, Damon. He said, and you're going to have one of the most amazing stories ever. He said, it's how I show that I'm real. He said, you're going to go out there and work for me, but the minute this becomes about you and not me, this is where you're coming back to. I want you to get a good look at this place. Got it, man. So every day I pray for two things, Chad. I pray, hey, God, put in front of me what you need me to do today for you, and let me recognize that when I see it, because I don't want to miss whatever that is. And with obedience, I do everything that's on that list every day when I wake up. I woke up this morning in Conroe, Texas, said the same prayer, and it'll come to me, whatever that is. But I have to be focused on service through Christ and what he needs me to do for him in order for me to maintain this life that I have, this freedom. I've got an incredible life. By every metric, I'm a redeemed man, And I want to hold on to that because I know that left to my own capabilities, I will go off and become a bad person again if I don't have God in front of everything I do. I have to.
Before we get into your transition and the stuff you're doing now, when you make bad choices, there's consequences. And sometimes those consequences are actually a good thing. Yeah. They mold us into who we are. I mean, it's chastisement, right? Chastisement is good. Even God allows us to go through difficult things, and there's a chastism there from God that grows us and makes us better. And you look back at those and kind of inventory those experiences, and sometimes there's people to thank. And I know you mentioned earlier today about the people you had to thank for those consequences were not people that most people would expect. The police, the SWAT team. Yeah. One of your victims.
Yeah.
And I was hoping you could share those two stories of the victim and the SWAT team.
So we'll start. We'll go backwards. We'll start with the SWAT team. One of those mornings when I had that prayer, hey, put in front of me what you need me to do today for you, and God told me, contact Dallas SWAT. Go thank them for. I tell people all the time that SWAT didn't just arrest me that day; they rescued me that day. Dallas SWAT saved my life. They pulled me out of a situation I couldn't get myself out of. And I'm a very law and order kind of guy. Now,
the perspective. I just got paused because that's perspectives.
Yeah,
amazing. For law enforcement out there, sometimes they might not even realize that's what they're doing.
Oh yeah, no, it's a thankless job. You look at society right now. Like, when I hear these people talk about defund the police, I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. I lived in a world where there's no police, Chad. That's prison, man. You don't want to live in a prison. And you can look at America. There's some cities in America, some places that look like a prison. I mean, like, it's evident when the mindset of people shift to like they don't want law enforcement around. It won't last long. They'll be calling the cops at some point because you need healthy law enforcement. If anything, they need more resources to do their job. And so I'm a very law and order kind of guy. Like, Chad, I can't imagine someone doing to me what I did to all of my other victims. I can't imagine somebody breaking in my home, my stepdaughter, my wife, my mom. When my dad died, I built my mom a home next to me. So, I mean, I've got my mom there with me now next door to me. I can't imagine somebody doing to my family what I did to so many people's families, right? But I did that to these people, and I can't change that. But one of those mornings I woke up and God's like, hey, go find Dallas SWAT. They need to be thanked for what they did. And you need to go show them the gratitude, show them that their jobs matter. So I start trying to get SWAT to talk to me. And it took a couple of years before I finally got them to talk to me. And it was a podcast I did with a buddy of mine named Andy Frisella. So I do Andy's podcast.
Yeah.
And
I was on Andy's show. He's great.
He's great. He's
the whole First Form team.
Yeah. Oh, they're incredible. The standard they've set up is incredible.
Yeah.
So I did Andy's podcast, and I said, listen, if anybody out there is listening from Dallas SWAT, I've been trying for years to get in front of y'all, man. It's on my heart. I need to go talk to y'all. Somebody from SWAT was listening and messaged me on Instagram Messenger and said, listen, I work with SWAT, and if you're serious, I'll connect you to our commander. And instantly I was connected to the commander. I was like, God, this is great, man. You got to do for us what we can't do for ourselves, right? And so we put this together. He sets up the meeting. I go to the Dallas Police Headquarters. All right, so this is a building I didn't walk out of the last time I was in it, right? So it's like I'm going back in, but I'm not going in as a criminal this time. I'm going in as an honest, tax-paying citizen who's grateful for life every day.
Still on parole. But
yeah, I'm still on parole, but I'm not in prison, so... But the commander comes out. He said, hey, listen, man, I don't know if you want to come in there today. He said, I had 3 guys call in. They're not coming in today because it's you coming in. And he said, the rest of the room feels about the same way, but they came to work anyway. Yeah. He said, so do you want to come in? I was like, yeah, absolutely, man. Look, it's my job to come in there and thank them and my job to show the gratitude. I can't control whether or not they pick it up, they receive it. It's one of the things about in life when you make apologies to people, you learn in the 12 steps. Your job is to make the amends to all the people you've harmed. It's not, you can't control whether or not someone accepts your apology. That's not an apology. You don't make apologies just when you think someone's going to accept it. There are people out there that will not accept your apologies, and that is okay because your job is to release them from what you did to them and hopefully release yourself from what you feel about that. And in AA, in the 12 steps, we have a little caveat in that apology things. It says there's going to be some apologies you can't make. And in those apologies you can't make because it would cause the other party harm or cause you harm, you do what's called a living amends. And a living amends is when you go out and do good deeds and you expect nothing in return. So the SWAT team's a living amends. That's what I told the commander. I was like, look, man, I don't care what they feel about this. I want to go and talk to them. I said, I got to go tell them. And so it's all right, come on in. Chad, I go in there, man, and it was like, man, the body language is like, it's hug a thug. A lot of them don't want to be there, man, because this is this guy they put away. And they what is he doing back in front of us kind of thing is what some of them are probably thinking. And I got up there and I said, hey, first of all, I just want to tell y'all, thank you. You pulled a guy out of a dope house on July 30th, 2008. You had no idea that day you were going to change someone's life. And I had no idea. When I'm laying on the floor with a gun in my face and a boot in my chest, I'm not thinking this is the greatest thing could happen to me, but it was, man. And here's what I told about my life when I did Muhammad, the coffee bean. And I said, look, I want y'all to see the example that someone got it right, because you see so many examples that they don't get it right. I said, but what if someone came back to thank you for the job you did and wanted you to see it, you know? So that's powerful. And I said, here's what I want to do to show gratitude. I said, I have been blessed in life. The speaking world has been very good to me. I've become one of the biggest speakers in America, and I have a lot of blessings in life, and I want to share that with y'all today. I said, I want you to think of all the equipment you need that's hung up in red tape right now with Dallas Police Department that you can't get. Equipment you need to save other people's lives and you go home safe to your families. Give me the list. I'll buy it. No questions asked. They gave me a list of about $20,000 worth of stuff. Breacher bags, all kinds of stuff. I bought it all, Chad. When I was there, I brought this. So when I was there, this one of the guys from SWAT ripped his patch off his shoulder, and he gave me his patch. And he said, this is a big deal, man. He said, for me to give you this patch, it means I believe in you. 4 words. Everyone needs to hear, Chad. I believe in you. He said, I believe in you, Damon. And he said, thank you for coming today. He said, no one has ever thanked me for arresting them. So thank you for today. So in return, when I bought the breacher bags and everything, I got them a patch. Their patch says, be a coffee bean. So that's the patch that was on the breacher bags when they got the breacher bags. So they have Dallas SWAT and be a coffee bean on the patch.
Well, I mean, the coffee bean analogy works in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Very fitting for prison because of the culture and environment. But being a police officer
very fitting
for being a police officer.
A lot of eggs in law enforcement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can be an egg, or you can become a old mushy carrot and not last.
I speak to a lot of law enforcement groups now, and I do it, and I tell them that, law enforcement's a hard job. Here's one of the reasons why it's so hard. It's one of the only occupations I can think of where every interaction you have starts on a negative.
Yeah, you're exposed to the ugliest.
Yeah.
No one calls because they're having the police department because they're having a good day.
Right. You pull over on the side of the road, everybody sees a gun and a badge. Body language is bad. Every conversation law enforcement has, they start on a negative. That wears you down. And we ask law enforcement to wear too many hats, Chad. We ask them to be a crisis counselor, a drug and alcohol counselor, a marriage counselor, when they're not all those things. And if we're going to say, hey, you're going to do all these things, we need to give them more resources to do it. Just like I think we need to give more resources to people that work in corrections. We don't take care of the people that take care of us well enough in this society. So my job was SWAT. I got to go and thank them. I got to go.
That was amazing. That was amazing that you did that. And even the grumpy ones, I'm sure they appreciate it.
They're fine now. I've got an open invitation every time I come through Dallas to hang out over there at the SWAT building and go lift weights with them and hang out and eat. So I'll take them up on it, man. That's fine because we're on the same side. I'm a very law and order kind of guy. Now, the other thing you were talking about is the victims. And I explained to you that in Texas, you can't apologize to the victims of crimes. You can't do it. It's another felony. You'll go back. So I'll never apologize to my victims because my parole officer has told me you cannot do this. So in recovery, you have a living amends. The living amends says you go out and do good deeds and you expect nothing in return. That's how you make the amends for the amends that you can't make, right? So because I have so many victims out there, Chad, my life is just a constant living amends. And that's one of the things I'm out on the road doing in these prisons, everywhere else, when I find people I can help out, my foundation that helps children who have incarcerated parents, living amends. That's how I live my life. And I stay sober by doing it. The biggest victim of all my crimes. All right, so this is, let me paint the picture for you. It's July 4th weekend of 2008. Dustin, my partner in crime, and I, we break into this woman's condo in Uptown Dallas, and we're dope fiends. All we're doing is looking for stuff we can trade for dope, electronics, jewelry. Well, we find a safe in this woman's closet. We break into the safe, and there's a ring in there, a diamond ring. So we steal the ring. We trade it off for dope. What we didn't see in her condo was the tri-folded flag on the wall. We didn't see the killed in action plaque that was next to it. We didn't see the pictures of the Marine in uniform. That ring was given to her by her deceased fiance who stepped on an IED in Iraq in 2007. Chad, we stole the last big memory she had from him. And we traded it for dope. We were bad people, Chad. I mean, this just tells you the level of bad we were.
Yeah, that ring's gone forever.
Gone forever.
Yeah.
She never got it back. I do a story in Dallas. This is in 2020. And the reporter does a really good job with the story. And the only reason I would do the story in Dallas, because I don't live in Dallas. I live 6 hours from Dallas. All my victims were in Dallas. I stayed out of Dallas. But this guy wanted to do the story because he wanted to tell what the story the Uptown Burglar is doing now. He said, that's the real story. People want to hear these good comeback stories, and you're a living comeback story. I said, I'll do the story if you will allow me the chance to tell the audience that I was a bad guy and I was a scumbag and I deserved to go to prison. I got what was coming to me. He said, great. So all those things were in the story. I thought it was a really good story because it showed the good things happening to me, but it also showed the accountability on my part, because I think people want to see us be accountable. No one wants to hear about excuses, Chad. No one wants to hear that. So after the story was over, I got an email that night, and the email was from a name I did not recognize. And the subject line said, Damon, I forgive you. I click on it, open it. It's her, the one who I stole the ring from. Dustin and I stole the ring from back in 2008. And it's a very emotional email. And she is describing her feelings from seeing me on the news that night, the fact that I was out of prison, she had no clue. Then she's going back and reliving the burglary when she gets home from her trip and she sees their place been broken into. Chad, she ran right for the safe, because if my house been broken into, the most important thing in the house is in that safe, gone. And she walks through the emotion of that. It's also bringing back the emotion that I felt like she was the first witness at my trial. Whenever I went on trial in 2009, she was the first witness, and the trial was over after her. And she gave a very compelling testimony about how bad of a guy I was. I thought about her every day that I was in prison. I've thought about her every day that I got out of prison. She represented all.
You heard her tell the story. You heard her testify.
I heard her testify. Yeah, that's the thing about a trial. You're listening to the damage you did. So, I mean, she is telling me the story, and I think about it every day in prison. Her and her ring. She represents all the victims, right? Because she's the biggest victim. And so this email is like, oh, man, I'm confronted with what I did. Now it's to her. She's reached out to me. Because remember, I could never reach out to a victim, and I never would. But she can reach out to me. And she tells all the painful parts, and then she gets to the healing. And she's like, I feel like, I won't say who her deceased fiance's name is, but she said, I feel like he would tell me that it's just a stone, and look what Damon's doing now, and he's actually helping other people. And so forgive. And that's what I'm going to read you what she said at the last part of the email. She said, with that, I'd like to say, I forgive you. I'm moving on in the hope that you're a genuine person with a good heart, and the hope that you put others before money or fame as you share your story, and the hope that you and your family never experience great loss or violation. Most importantly, in the hope that you feel peace in knowing that we are saved from the mistakes we make in this world, thanks to the unfailing love of Christ. Life is such a gift. May you live it to the fullest, Damon. I mean, Chad, when I read that, man, the tears started flowing, and she set me free. The last part of her email says, may you live your life to the full. I mean, I didn't feel like I was deserving of that. In fact, all this stuff that I talk about and tell other people about how you can't hold resentments, you got to let people, you got to show grace to other people. All this time, I'd never forgiven myself. I'd never shown that grace to me. Grace is hard, Chad. Grace always costs the person giving it more than it costs the person who receives it. That's why grace is such a hard thing, And I could never show myself grace for what I did to that woman. And she writes me and shows me this grace that I don't feel like I deserve. And she freed me from it. And she showed me the power of a forgiving heart that I didn't even know existed, because I didn't think I deserved that. And immediately I called my parole. I sent it to my parole officer, emailed it to her. I called her immediately. Miss Braggs is her name. And Miss Braggs like, you okay? I said, yeah, open your email, read it right now. So she read it. She's crying. I'm crying. I said, Miss Braggs, I gotta reach out to her. She said, you can't respond to her. I said, well, will you respond to her? She goes, no. She said, the law doesn't allow for that. There's no responding to his email. And so for the longest time, you know, I still don't know to this day if she even knows that I got her email, but I wrote a book called 6 Dimes and a Nickel. And that book came out in the summer of 2025. And the book's about all the principles I live my life by. It's my whole life story. I built a memoir and a self-help book all in one. But every chapter is a principle I live my life by, and one of them is the healing power of forgiveness. And I got to tell her story in there and put the email in there because my lawyer told me, while you can't reach out to other victims, they can reach out to you, and you can share the correspondence of anybody that reaches out to you. Now, look, most of the time, victim correspondence, when they've reached out to me, has not been like that. You know, there's a lot of people that reach out to me that have been victims of my crimes, and they're very upset.
You're out.
Yeah, they're very upset still, and I can't respond back to them. I have to give it to my parole officer. She puts it in my file, and we move on from there. And I can't apologize. I'm not going to apologize. I'm not going back to prison for that. That doesn't do anybody any good. But I can live my life with a bunch of living amends.
I got asked 6 times a nickel, 65.
That's it,
65
man.
years.
Yeah, so it's really catchy. Muhammad, when I got out of trial that day, I came back to my pod. Another good story from that day. May 18, 2009, they bring me back to the pod. My trial was on the news, very high profile case in Dallas, the Uptown burglaries. I get back to my pod. Muhammad's the first one to greet me. He's the only one that'll greet me. I mean, everybody's staring at me because I just got a life sentence in prison. No one will come near me. I think they're afraid they're going to catch a life sentence if they get too close, right? But Muhammad came up and he gave me a hug. He said, man, I saw that they gave you 6 dimes and a nickel, man. It broke my heart. And he could see that I wanted to cry. He said, don't cry here. He said, go get your shower stuff, get to the showers, go cry in the shower. One time. Get it all out. No one will know you've been crying. You've been in the shower. Get it all out one time. Don't cry out here. So I stiffen up. I go get my shower stuff. I go to the shower. And the minute the water hits my face in the shower, I start bawling and crying like a baby. And I'm talking to God. I'm like, God, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm in the wilderness now, right? I'm lost. And what I believe is Jesus appears to me in the shower and says, hey, Damon, it's okay. I got you. There was no admonishment. No, you didn't listen to me. That's not how Christ works, man. It's like, hey, you're back. I'm here. Get on my back. I'm going to carry you. My mom always reminded me of this prayer plaque she had on the wall when I was a kid, footprints in the sand.
Yeah.
And so God is telling me, get on my back. I'm going to carry you through this, and we're going to get through this together. And so May 18, 2009, the day that I got 6 dimes and a nickel, the day I lost my life because of the crimes I committed, was also the day I got my life back in Christ, and I turned my life back over to Christ. It was a big day for me. And then May 18th, 2019, 10 years to the day, I got married for the first time. So as my wife says, you went from one life sentence to another.
Yeah. No parole on that one.
much better cellmate.
Yeah.
So, but life has been good to me, Chad. I wake up every day, like where we started this conversation. I've got a smile on my face. I'm not in prison anymore. I have so many things to be grateful for. Yeah. I've defined what a bad day looks like. And as long as I go out and do the right thing, being on parole means that I've got a choice of whether or not I go have to live that bad day ever again. And as long as I make the right choices in life, as long as I'm a coffee bean, I'm not going back to prison. Not that way.
Well, I mean, it's such an amazing story, and we're just kind of getting to the part to where you are now. And I'd love to hear the transition of you getting out, getting it back on your feet, and meeting John Gordon, who a wonderful guy, a great, brilliant speaker, great author. He's just super successful guy, and it's impacted so many people. And we're supposed to get him on the show too.
Oh, you need to get John. John's great. This is John's incredible. So this is a great story, man. You have a good memory. So all right, here's the story, the grand finale of this whole show today. So when I got out of prison, I knew I was sitting in an incredible story in the mesh of the coffee bean. But the problem was there weren't a lot of places for me to share that story. I'm an ex-con. Remember that warden told me those 3 words: punishment never stops. He said, you'll never stop being punished for the things you did. So there's a lot of places I can't get in, a lot of jobs I'll never be able to get, and people that have never let me live it down. There's a lot of ex-cons that have come before me that have burned the bridge to the ground. And that's why people have such a negative outlook on ex-cons, because so many that have come before me have done wrong and gone back to prison. So I get out. I know I got an incredible story. So I found out really quickly too, you can't go knock on the door of a high school and say, I just got out of prison. I want to talk to your kids.
Yeah.
They'll lock you back up. So there weren't a lot of places for me to speak, but what there was in my parents' spare bedroom, because I lived with my parents for the first 2 years in their spare bedroom. I mean, I'm 40 years old. I just got out of prison. I'm on parole for the rest of my life. I got a job making just above minimum wage. I live in my parents' spare bedroom. Not your best dating profile, but man, I'm free, So
Even then, not a bad day.
not a bad day, man. So there's not a lot of place for me to speak, but in the spare bedroom, my mom had a little vanity mirror in there. It was just part of the bedroom set when I moved in. So every night for 2 years, I practiced my presentation in front of a mirror, getting my reps. Anything you want to be good at in life, you have to practice that in life. Yeah. Chad, as you know, there's no such thing as an overnight success. Doesn't exist. It's not real.
You read the book, Myth of the Overnight Success?
No, I've never read the book.
It's the book, Myth of the Overnight Success. The title says exactly what you just said.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Everyone thinks, oh, man, that guy, Damon West, man, that guy's so lucky. He just blew up overnight. It's like, no.
That's what I tell people time. People are like, man, that happened so fast for you. I'm like, fast? I was building this guy in a dungeon, man. In 2010, I'm working on myself.
It's the myth of the overnight success. People see the result. They don't see the work.
I was building a brand back in 2010 in a prison cell with the coffee bean brand, right? I was building this guy up. So I keep practicing in front of a mirror, getting my reps in, because I'm getting myself ready for the right opportunity. I believe the right opportunity was World of College Football, because I played Division I college football. But the problem was, it's been 20 years since I took my last snap. Coaches don't know me. I don't know them. January 11th, 2017. I've been out of prison for 14 months at this point. A buddy of mine in Houston. Houston is 90 miles from Beaumont. He works in the media, works for KHOU. Damon, get to Houston right now. It's the Bear Bryant Coach of the Year Award. They're going to name the best college football coach in America. The 8 best coaches in the country are in this room right now. I've got an extra press pass. I'll sneak you in. So I drive the 90 miles from Beaumont to Houston. He sneaks me in the back door of the Toyota Center, the big arena downtown.
Yeah.
Hands me a press pass. He said, you're on your own. So there I am in this room, Chad, and all these coaches there. I run around that room that night. I shook every coach's hand. I gave them my pitch of why they should bring me in to talk to their team. And every single coach I met that night slammed the door in my face. They all said no. In 1 hour, I got 7 no's from 8 coaches. I know every 8 minutes. I'm standing in the corner of the Toyota Center, licking my wounds, feeling sorry for myself, getting ready to walk out the door and leave. Because the voice in my head is telling me, go home. The voice in my head is telling me things like, you're an imposter. You don't belong in this room. And I think most people have heard the imposter voice before.
Oh, yeah.
But a long time ago, I stopped listening to myself, because I know that sometimes the voice in my head is fear talking to me, and you don't want to listen to fear, because fear is a liar. So I talk to myself. That's a method I used to get through tough situations. I'll tell myself out loud, Damon, you survived prison. You survived something way worse than this. And that night I'm telling myself, that last coach is going to have to tell you no to your face before you go home. And the last coach is the hardest guy to get to in the room. His team beat Alabama 2 nights before for the national championship. Everybody's in line to talk to this guy. But I'm not leaving until he tells me no. So I stalked Dabo Swinney around that room, the head coach at Clemson. And I look like a crazy person at this point. I'm pushing people out of the way. When Dabo sees me, I'm hiding behind a fake plant waiting to ambush this dude, right?
Yeah.
So I come out from behind the plant. I give Dabo a pitch, and it falls flat. And Dabo's like, man, you got a card on you? I gave him my card. He said, I'll check you out. He was gone. Well, that's a no. I've seen it no before that night, but I felt good about that no, because I left it all on the field. Biggest takeaway I got from sports, man. You gotta give it your all. Sometimes you come up short. Or like Muhammad said, you don't have to win all your fights. You got to fight all your fights. I fought my fights that night. I went home and slept like a baby. Forgot about that night. 4 months later, I get a phone call out of the blue. I get an email out of the blue. The email is from the director of football operations at Clemson University, a guy named Mike Dooley. Here's what Mike Dooley's email said. Hey, Damon, Coach Swinney met you at the award show in Houston. He would love to have you come talk to his team. Do you have August 1st open? I'm like, brother, I got every first open.
August 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th.
You can have any day you want. So August 1st, 2017, I go speak to the Clemson Tigers, defending national champions of college football. And after I get done my presentation tonight, Dabo's in my face. Damon, that's the most amazing story I've ever heard. I've never seen my players respond like that to a speaker. He said, have you been to Alabama to talk to Alabama's football team? I'm like, no, Dabo, I've been to Clemson. Alabama doesn't know who I am. He said, we'll see about that. He said, I just texted Nick Saban from the back of the room. The next day, my flight lands in Houston for my trip to Clemson. I turn my phone on, a voicemail and a text message from the director of football operations at the University of Alabama, the Whale, the biggest program in America, the best coach to ever do it. Here's what the voicemail said. Hey, Damon, Dabo called Coach Saban last night. Coach Saban can't wait to hear your story. How does August 21st, 7:30 p.m. work for your calendar? I laughed out loud. I didn't have a calendar back then, man. I didn't need a calendar, right? My life was simple. So just like that, Dabo Swinney becomes the person that believes in me. Dabo Swinney turns the entire Rolodex over to me because Kirby Smart calls, Lincoln Riley, Chip Kelly, Lane Kiffin, Ryan Day. Every coach in America is calling my phone, but the biggest event had to happen yet. August of 18, I get a phone call to the Blue. It's been 1 year since that first presentation at Clemson. The phone call I get in August of 18 is from a guy named John Gordon. Now, I knew who John Gordon was, the Energy Buzz guy, one of the biggest speakers and authors in America. And I'm like, John, I know who you are, man. How do you know who I am? He said, Dabo Swinney. He said, I just got done speaking at Clemson today. Dabo brought me off for 30 minutes, told me your whole story. John said, Damon, the world needs a coffee bean message. Let's deliver the message to the world. Write a book with me. We'll call it The Coffee Bean. In the summer of 2019, 10 years after I first heard that story from Muhammad in a jail cell, that book, The Coffee Bean, came out, and it took the world by storm, the whole planet. So it started off in America first. It was on every bestseller list. Got a global publishing deal. Global publishing deals are when your book gets reprinted in every language in the world. Just in time for the year 2020, when the world became a pot of boiling water and the world was searching for a message. And that's when the world discovered Damon West and the story of the coffee bean. And man, Chad, my life went from flat to vertical. I mean, and it's been like that ever since. Since 2021, I'm on the road 280, 300 days a year sharing this story somewhere in America. And now I'm dipping into prisons every time I drive by them, while I'm on the road speaking. But it all goes back to one night in Houston, Texas, January 11th, 2017. That night I had 7 no's in the first hour, and I'm walking out the door getting ready to leave because the voice in my head told me I didn't belong in that room. And if I walk out that room that night, Chad, we're not having this conversation today, and the world doesn't have the coffee message. So what I want your audience to know is that you can't give up when life gets hard. Yeah. You can't quit because life is tough. Life is going to be tough. And you don't not ask your questions in life. The only question you really know the answer to in life is the one you do not ask. That answer is no every time because you didn't ask your question. Mm-hmm. I think Wayne Gretzky said it best. Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots that you do not take. You got to take your shots in life, Chad. Good story, though.
I think you answered this, but I'll ask you to just give a final pointed answer. This is the Resilient Show, an incredible story of perseverance and resilience. If you have one lesson to share with those listening on living a resilient life, what would that be?
So we start off every recovery meeting with this beautiful prayer called the Serenity Prayer. You've heard it before, right?
I have. Yeah.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So one AA meeting I went to in prison, the sponsor brought in...
Oh, I had the wisdom to hide the bodies of those who can't. I had a different. That's my difference.
Every crew had their own little serenity prayer. So one Wednesday morning in prison, they have these meetings at the Chapel of Hope. And I go to this meeting, and the sponsor says, hey, we're going to diagram the Serenity Prayer today. He has a chalkboard. He draws along a line from one side of the chalkboard to the other. He said the line on the chalkboard represents God's line. He said God's line is bigger than the chalkboard. It's infinitely long, right? It's massive. He says the first part of the prayer, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. He said the things you cannot change are on God's line. And every time you try to touch something on God's line, you hurt yourself and you hurt other people because you're not God. And God doesn't need your help doing his job. He said, stay off of God's line because you get your own line in life. He erased a little inch out of God's line. And he held his fingers up an inch apart for the entire chapel to see. He said, now, if God's line is infinitely long, that's your line, 1 inch. He said, that little 1 inch line is called humility. He said, humility is being right-sized. And when we are right-sized, we can become useful to other people again. Remember that word I told Parole, useful. He said, on your little 1 inch line, he said, the second part of the prayer, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can. He said, the things you can change are on your little 1 inch line, and there's 4 things you can change in life. Here's the 4 things you can control. And I told you a while ago, what you think, what you say, what you feel, and what you do. He said, if it's not what you think, what you say, what you feel, and what you do, then it's not on your line, it's on God's line. He said the last part of the Serenity Prayer was the most important part of the prayer for everybody to understand, the wisdom to know the difference between God's big line and your little line every day. So I would tell people out there that if you want to have a resilient mindset, know what's on your line. I can't tell you how many times a day I go up to decisions and I look at them and I kind of weigh it out. And I like, you know what? That's not on my line. And I walk away from things all the time Because if it's not on my line, it does not serve the purpose of who I want to be in life. If it's not on my line, it can steal something from me called time. Time is the most precious resource you have, Chad.
Yes.
Once the stuff is gone, it's gone for good.
You can make more money, you can get more opportunities, but you can never get more time.
All the money in the world won't buy 1 second of it. It's the most valuable thing there is. Take it from a guy that's done time. And I'll leave with this last warning. I meet more people out here in the free world that are locked up than I ever did when I did time in prison. More people are in prison by their thoughts, by their things, than by steel bars and barbed wire and concrete combined. Do not become a prisoner in your own mind. Know what's on your line.
Man, I'm so thankful for your story and what you're doing right now. This book, by the way, amazing Wall Street Journal bestseller. This book has become so impactful, and I was happy to hear. I didn't know that it was translated in every language.
Oh yeah, it's Arabic, French, Italian, German, Vietnamese, Korean, Spanish, all this stuff.
Which if for those who are not in the publishing world, that's a really big deal.
Huge. That's John Gordon, though, man. That being connected to John Gordon, that was a life-changing event. That's why if you can ever get John on, John's the guy that had the most impact in my life of anybody else, man.
Yeah, he's awesome. I spoke with him there at the Ocala event, and then he and I spoke at the Ignite event with the American Association of Christian Counselors. We just spoke.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we spent some time in the back talking, and we talked about him coming on the show.
Great.
So I got to reach back out to him. We'll send a message together after we're done here.
Yeah, absolutely. Do that. And whenever you get him a show, let me know. If I'm in town, I'll come see him.
Oh yeah, maybe we grab some lunch or dinner together.
Yeah.
But Damon's books, this is Damon and John's book together, The Coffee Bean, 6 Dimes and a Nickel. You get them anywhere books are sold, right?
Anywhere books sold. Amazon is the place. Everybody's got an Amazon account. 6 Dimes and a Nickel is like the one that's got everything in it, man. It's good. The story, the coffee beans in there, the Muhammad story, all this stuff. But it's all the lessons I live my life by, and how you can apply those lessons in your life. Because I think people want to know the prescriptive formula.
And we're gonna have signed copies available for our Patreon members. So you get, if you're a Patreon member, if you're not, get on Patreon, become a member. It's one of the perks we get is we get signed copies of our guest books out to you. And if you're interested in anything Damon's doing, particularly his speaking, we're gonna put him on our link to his speaking through our page as well, and then we'll put on the show notes below all the ways to get a hold of you.
Yeah, DamonWest.org, my website. That's where everybody finds it.
Easy. Right?
Yeah, DamonWest.org. And
makes it super easy.
Absolutely.
Well, man, normally at this point in the show, we hook up our guests with all the.
I watch your show. I've been waiting for this moment, man.
Yep, guns from Smith & Wesson, Vortex Optics, Gators Eyewear. We give we have silent Faraday bags for in case, like, maybe you're a spy or a burglar and you don't want your phone to go off. You stick it in a Faraday bag. Wouldn't endorse that, but we had BioPro and Core Medical and BioAccelerator. We have some amazing sponsors that do some amazing things for us. But normally the big gift is a gun, and I got to go back. The first guest that we're gonna have on the show that was gonna not be able to get the gun because of being a convicted felon, not being able to have the gun, was President Trump. and I thought it was gonna be great to be on with President Trump and not be able to give him a gun because he was a convicted felon. No. That was kind of funny. But it didn't happen. And here you are today, and I have to break the bad news to you. We can't give you a gun.
Yeah, and I can't accept the gun. But my brother-in-law, Trent Showstall, I married a family of hunters, man. Yeah. He is like, he listens to your show. He's like, man, you're going on Chad's show. I want the gun.
Well, we have to see if we can make it happen that way.
See if you can make it happen with brother-in-law. But I want all the stuff you're talking about. I love it, man. I watch your show. I've been waiting for this moment the whole show, but I can't take your gun, brother.
Well, we can't get you like a pair of like a Vortex, maybe not a sight for a gun. We'll get you like some binoculars or a monocular or something like that. So long as you don't use it to.
I can use a bow and arrow, man.
Okay, yeah, you can spot for him. Not casing a joint or something like that.
Yeah. No, you don't have to worry about that anymore, man. I'm good.
No, man. I really appreciate you. And even without the gun, I know our sponsors will appreciate your story, and our audience will as well.
Thank you, man. Thanks for the opportunity to share with your audience today, man. I'm a big fan of your work, and I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to be here today, man.
Absolutely.
Life is good, brother.
Absolutely. What would you say the words were? The 4 best words you could hear is I believe in you.
I believe in you.
Man, I definitely believe in what you're doing.
I appreciate that, brother.
You're making an impact.
Thank you, man. It means a lot.
Guys, I really enjoyed that. I hope you did too. Please give it a like, give it a share, leave a comment for Damon. Our guests go often go back and look at these and love hearing the comments, what you thought about the episode. If you're not already doing so, please join our Patreon or join our YouTube channel, because one of the biggest complaints we get is not not about our guests, or not how great our guest is. One of the biggest things we hear is how people hate the ads. And I relate. I hate the ads too. And so don't listen to them. All you got to do is join Patreon. You actually not only get it ad free, but you get it early, and you get tons of bonus content. We're gonna have a bonus piece with Damon if he has time to stay for 5 minutes. We're gonna give away on Patreon signed books. So tons of bonus stuff on Patreon. Become a member. It's the best way you get support the show for as little as $5 a month. Also in relation to books, my new book, Riptide, part 2 of my 3-book fiction series from Silent Horizon series is out with Tyndale. You can pre-order it anywhere books are sold, and it'll be released here by May 12th. May 12th is the release date. So you can pre-order it now. So God bless. We'll see you next week, and stay resilient. Hey, what's up, Resilient family? I am so grateful for each of you who tune in every week to hear our episodes. We have such incredible guests and topics that I am passionate about, our team's passionate about, and we could not do it without you. So we're thankful for you. We love you. We appreciate you locking arms with us to be more informed, to become a more resilient community. And I want to invite you to become a tighter part of that community by joining us on Patreon. If you go to our show notes below, you can click the link and get dialed into our Patreon and get extra content weekly. You can join for $15 a month and get behind-the-scenes footage, get closer access to me. I have monthly Zooms that I'll be doing with some members of the community. And so we'd love to get more involved. Again, go below in the show notes and click the link and join today.